Welcome guys, welcome. Today gonna be a special stream. We will record today a video for an open world on stream. We're gonna talk about open world meta. I already prepared tier list. We're gonna talk about general things today on stream and weapons itself. Don't forget to press like button and don't forget to join our small community in Discord. We are growing our community super fast, insanely fast. Like why I was not doing it before, it's just crazy. Let's bait him on my low health. Come on, you will go. Yeah. Nice, 1.4 millions, I'll take it. Man, I love one-handed dagger, it's so nice. Today we're gonna record a video about open world meta, how you should rotate, what builds you should use, and in general, how much money you can earn. I already prepared tier list, I'm gonna show you this one. We're gonna discuss all weapons, so don't worry, we'll get to your weapon, even a niche one, and I'll rate it in this tier list. So let's get started. So, open world lately become an alternative for solo players besides Mists, where you can level up your character, where you can earn some money via PvE or PvP. We'll have three categories. Full PvE builds, yeah? Where you can do mostly only PvE. Mix between PvE and PvP. Builds that can do the both. And only PvP. So three categories. Keep this in mind. Before we get started, you need to understand basics of the game. Again, if you're experienced or semi-experienced player, you already know that, but I will mention it anyway. Very important part of the game and playing in open world in any environment, realistically, is to play with in-game sounds. You see, master volume, ambience on maximum, sound effects almost on maximum. Because you can hear your enemy much earlier than you're gonna see him on your screen. So let's say, and I was showing it in many examples on my highlights. Let's say this hill is a spot with mobs in open world. I will be on this side when I will not see my enemy, and I will be able to hear how he's farming mobs. So very often, maybe when you was dying to gankers, or you want to gank someone, you can just dismount, wait for your cooldowns, use boots invisibility, and attack a guy and kill him while he's on low health fighting mobs. So use this knowledge, it is very important. Let's talk about most common escape setups, like items that will allow you to survive in this open world. One of the most common ways how you can escape, if you're talking about budget build, is simple assassin jacket, guardian helmet, or Brazilian cape. And you can use an undead cape, but undead cape is a more expensive and for new players might not fit, especially if you're using, let's say, budget builds. There is no sense to play with undead cape. And of course, basic invisibility potion. That's your survivability kit that can be combined in any way. So why do you need assassin jacket? Mostly a guardian helmet, let's say, to reset mobs. It is very important. Because once you see someone, you don't wait until he will come to you. If you already checked his items, if you was able to check his items, you mount up and make sure that you will not be ganked. In a mid-fight, let's say, if you did not notice your enemy, you can always reset aggro and win some time. You press invisibility, you reset all mobs that are nearby, and run away. The same applied to Guardian Helmet. Guardian Helmet was buffed recently, and it got a bit higher duration. It will block damage from mobs that allow you to also mount up successfully. So let's say you are fighting mobs, you use your Guardian Helmet, you get shield, you're getting attacks, but anyway, you will be able to mount up. Your mount up will not be cancelled. So it's very important. Even if, let's say, you don't have a mount and enemy is following you, but you know that he do not have any burst abilities or any stuns, yeah, You can easily press your helmet and just mount up in front of him if you was not attacking him and your mount is not on cooldown. So you press this D ability, immediately mount up, DA. And this shield duration is enough for you to mount up and run away. Also, what's showing you in plenty of examples. Always do not matter what kind of build you are playing, I mean budget. Take at least one invisibility potion. Invisibility potion will allow you to just survive. But it is very important to know when to use this invisibility potion. You need to be aware that any damage will interrupt your invisibility. So let's say if you're playing with Assassin Jacket, enemy is ganking you, you're keeping distance between you and your enemy, use any kind of movement spell ability if you have this. Boots and then invisibility potion, and you change direction on the left and the right side, go in unpredictable way to run away. Also, you can use your Guardian Helmet and then Invisibility Potion if your enemy is on top of you, because damage you're gonna deal to you with bleeds, let's say, or some kind of abilities, will not interrupt your invis because you will have this shield. Keep this in mind. Brazilian Cape. Why Brazilian Cape in some scenarios might be useful? Brazilian Cape will give you a shield that allow you to, but first of all, tank some damage, and you will have immunity versus purges. So, you can even... Guys, you can even just use Guardian Helmet with Brazilian Cape if you pass. The reason about Brazilian, it's cheaper than Undead Cape. Not much though, but it's cheaper. If you want cheaper alternative, you don't want to use Undead Cape. Someone is diving you, you use your Guardian Helmet, activate Brazilian Cape and Guardian Helmet at the same time, boots, you will not be purged, and you can use Invisibility and run away in the same time. So it's a basics of survivability in open world. Keep this in mind. And if let's say that there is a gank squad, before using any kind of invisibility or movement spell, ideally to use some kind of movement spell ability in your kits to make a distance between you and your enemies to make sure that you will not be purged immediately if let's say you don't have immunity to purges. Also, immunity to purges has weapons like swords. It's Iron Will ability. This one also will give you immunity. So if you want to survive, let's say a gatherer in open world, you can use dual swords or carving. So that's a basic tips of how to survive and how to be aware that of your environment. You need to play with sound. Very important, guys. I know that majority of you want to play in a chill mode and farm mobs with music on the background on stream, but do not be surprised if you will be caught, because you're playing like that. Just take it into account. Again, guys, okay, about potions. You can use any potions you want, like healing potion, etc., but it will lead to your death. Keep this in mind. Never, ever play in open world with resist potion, with poison, with mana, only invis potion. Only. You have no other option. If there will be a fight that you want to take 1v1, you can later, after you reset, change your potion and then fight an enemy with healing potion. If you want to, or resist potion, do not use it. If you want to survive, don't use it. You can keep this in your inventory just in case if there will be actual 1v1, you know this guy is solo, then you can swap, come back and fight 1v1. Stash fights might happen. So keep this in mind. Why open world? Open world lately added cool content that allow you to actually progress on the same level like in Mists back in the days. Any black zone city got a small safe portal. Price of the safe portal depends on your gear kit in general. It will randomly teleport in a black zone of Martlock location if you're from Martlock, Tetrot if you're from Tetrot, and so on and so on and so on. If you are playing on a low tier in open world, please, guys, do not go in a high tier locations. I know it will not be high rewards because rewards actually scaling depend on how close you are to an inner circle. If you're gonna be in a black zone in this area, let's say in tier 8, tier 5 zone, and compare tier 5 zone near inner circle, man, rewards gonna be almost doubled. I'm not even joking. Because closer you are, higher quality of the zone is and more rewards you're gonna get. But you, as a new player, if you're a new player, shouldn't bother about it. Because if you're gonna use cheap setups that cost 50k of silver, 60k of silver, and we're gonna talk about setups and builds soon, I'll get to this tier list soon, it's super easy to get this money back. My point is, even if you will die to gankers, and you will die, and it's normal, especially when you are learning how to survive in open world, it's completely fine. You will get your money back. So farm tier 5, tier 6, if you have high specs and low tier gear, you can go even to tier 7 zones, but never go in tier 8. Mobs in tier 8 locations are over buffed in my opinion. SBI should, devs need to turn it down a bit. Will they do it? Probably no. So don't go in tier 8 zone in cheap setups. Your maximum is tier 7. Let's talk about prime zones. Prime time. What is prime time? Prime time, it is a very important part of the game where you should be aware of. It's the most dangerous time when you can play the game. Because amount of players in open world gang squads will be so high that you cannot even imagine. Like, they will hunt everyone. So if you can play during not a prime time, that's a perfect window where you can log in, grind mobs, grind open world, and get insane amount of silver. Prime time starts mostly on different servers during different time, because again, on EU it starts in the evening of EU time, on NA evening, NA Washington time, Asia, Asian evening time. So between 6-7 p.m. till midnight, maybe 1 a.m. That's a prime time on all servers, and you need to take this into account. Because since we have 3 servers, it becomes prime time zone game. Like any other MMORPG, it's not different from any other MMORPG, New World, Arcade back in the days, like any game you name, they have their prime time, depending on what kind of server you are playing on. So yeah, just keep it in mind. If you want to play, like if you can play during morning time on a EU server, man, there will be almost no one in Black Zone and you will kill everything. And you will be able to anyway find from time to time solo players and sometimes gang squads. But your survivability gonna be higher. So take this into account. If you struggle to, let's say, during your evening time to farm some mob camps, clearing boss layers, it might be because of super high population on the server. Try to play a bit later or a bit earlier. I know it sucks, but again, that's how all game works. More people play in the evening, more competition, and it might be hard. The main source of income in open world gonna be hotspots and boss layers. Boss layers is basically maps that you find in open world, in random camps, or when you clear a camp and boss layer map might appear on a spot, because they are by default invisible and they will become visible only when you will clear the camp, but only if they exist there. So you just don't see them. Devs not long time ago made this change to make sure that gankers that roam around will not camp these spots where there's already a map and would not feed on players. So it's intentional change, guys. Don't be not confuse you. You need to clear a spot to see an actual map. What is boss layers? Boss layers, I can bet you saw it on various of streams, on my highlights. On YouTube, you can just type boss layers and you'll figure out what it is. It's basically as one floor dungeon with boss with chests. And rewards in this chest are RNG as hell. You can get 6.4 items since 7.3, 7.4 if you are farming, let's say, tier 8 or tier 7 in inner circle and get insane decent rewards. But still RNG based. In the long run, you will always earn decent amount of money. But there might be chests, let's say you can open in tier 7 location somewhere in this area, a boss layer, and there will be only 200k inside, which suck. But sometimes it can be 500,000, sometimes it can be 800k, sometimes it might be 5 millions, depending on lucky loot from black market. So keep this in mind. And now we get to a tier list itself. There will be a timing on the YouTube, so you can skip basic tips if you want to see only tier list of the weapons. We're gonna talk about all of them, about their efficiency, how you should play, are they good or not. Remember, PvE, PvE and PvP, and only PvP. Let's start with Broadswords. Broadswords, I would actually put it in C tier. The way how you can play in general on all swords is to use, if you want survivability, like I said, Iron Will to combine with your boots to escape, and Assassin Jacket. You can also use Mercenary Jacket with these builds. But the thing is, clear speed will be very bad. Like, not very bad, it's gonna be so-so. And you can use it in PvE anyway on cheap setups. Let's say you can use Broadsword with Mercenary Jacket and slowly clear in pretty efficient way, I would say, tier 5, tier 6, and you have specs tier 7 spots. But that's your maximum. This sword is not an open world weapon. Most meta open world weapons gonna have mobility spells. So Broadsword I put in a C tier. You can use this W Whirlwind to increase your clear speed, yeah, definitely, but then you're gonna lose something in survivability because you will not have Iron Will. So I don't recommend you to play on it unless you are playing it for fun on low tier in very cheap setup to get some specs to have some fun. You can. Again, remember items that I mentioned before for survivability, you can combine one of them and you'll be good to just clear simple mobs. Broadsword is a purely PvE weapon. It's not even close to be a PvP. It's not a mix between PvE and PvP. It's a PvE weapon for open world. You can use it, especially if you're a new player. If experienced, of course, you can make it work as a PvP, yeah? But you need to know Albion, ideally, to perform well. Do not recommend to play on Broadsword as a weapon if you want to farm open world. Do not. Claymore, on the other hand, is almost the same as a Broadsword in terms of efficiency, clear speed, it's clanky E-spell, etc. But it has a potential to gank people in open worlds on hotspots because it has better mobility and range E-spell that allow you to hunt down players. I would also put it on a C tier. I'll be honest, I would put it in a C tier, but it has much more efficiency than Broadsword. The way how you can play, again, Assassin Jacket, either Helmet, Fiend Cowl, if you want to gank people, or Stalker Hood. Stalker Hood you use on a half health to finish enemy basically with one E-spell, to pierce it and finish it. Or to reveal enemy invisibility if you use invisibility too early, so you would not lose time. But it's still a C tier. It's a so-so weapon for open world. Still barely usable, but yeah. Duosword, on the other hand, I would put it in a B tier for open world because it has decent mobility. PvE clear speed is much better than Broadsword and Claymore. You can do PvE, you can gank people. Not the best, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not even close to be A tier and far, far away from S tier. But it's a common weapon, cheap one, cheap to create, cheap to craft, cheap to buy. As a budget sword option, why the hell not? Mercenary Jacket, yes, you can use if you struggle with PvE. You can combine all the swords with Mercenary Jacket, but please, I beg you, use at least one invisibility potion. Something from your survivability that I mentioned at the first start of this video. Clarent Blade, I would still, guys, put it on a C tier. It got much better clear speed than Broadsword, on the level of dual swords, I would say, but it's still very niche. You have a AoE E-spell that will allow you to clear mobs, but again, lack of mobility make it so-so. You still can survive, you can, because of Iron Will. You still have sword stacks that allow you to have decent mobility. With Mercenary Jacket, you actually, you know what? If you are a newbie player, want to play on swords and just clear mobs, this would feel even more efficient in PvE than dual swords, because of burst damage you have. You take Mercenary Jacket, 4.1, 5.1. You take this Clarent Blade, cheap torch, shield, Mage Cowl with knockback. Oh, and I forgot to mention, one of your survivability kits might be any cloth helmet with a knockback. It will help you a lot to survive, especially if it's 1 or 2 gankers. To knock them away from you, then you use your boots and invisibility and running away. So this one is a decent. In terms of PvE, I would put it in a B tier, but overall, yeah, I would say it's C, because no mobility. Only nuke. Carving, on the other hand, can be a B tier. Even between B and A tier. Because you have a nice burst damage, you can gank people. So I put a weapon that can perform in PvE and PvP. But in PvE, you'll be good only on a bit, not on a basic item power, not on a basic specs. When you will level up this weapon a bit, then it will become some sort of playable. On the level of Battle Bracers at some point, we're gonna talk about Battle Bracers a bit later. But yeah, I would say it is still a B tier. You have a raw mobility on E-Spell. You have Split Slash if you want to gank people. Iron Will if you are farming and want on low tier and you want to make sure that your boots will not be purged. And those about boots. Sometimes many people do not play on them, but they're very strong. And man, I couldn't kill many people because of that. Simple Royal Sandals. Royal Sandals allow you to run away from most of them. Solo gankers. You just press Royal Sandals that cannot be purged, then you make a distance, use invisibility, and then mounting up and running away. Just so you would know. So I would put it in B tier. Again, armor pieces are the same. Assassin, Mercenary, that's all you need. You don't play with Hellion, you don't play with Cleric. Forget about cloth builds if you're doing PvE on swords. Generally on most of the weapons, but there are some weapons that can be played specifically for PvP, for ganking. These builds can be used with cloth, but we'll get to this point. So it's still a B tier. A good weapon overall. It's very strong in Mist, also one of the meta weapons in Mists. In small scale, very good. So you can level it up, but it might be pricey for a new player. High B tier. Yeah, it's like in the between A and B. If I would have, if I would put it between A-, I would put it in the A-, definitely. But for now, I put it in B tier, so you know. Galatine Pair, straight up D, like low damage, expensive, useless, bad. Forget about this weapon. It's a ZVZ weapon and outdated. There are much better options. It's not a weapon that you should play as a new player, guys. Forget about it. It's not. The same applies to Kingmaker, but Kingmaker at least can, again, it's C-, because at least it can do PvE in a more efficient way, but I do not recommend it. It's expensive. It's not a weapon for solo. Has no mobility, no dashes, etc. It's just a huge clap that you can also miss. You know what? Fuck it. D tier. Don't play on Kingmaker unless you are playing on a small scale. You can take a cheap version and kill like tier 6 mobs in open world if you don't mind to lose it, but it's in a D tier. Infinity Blade. It's a top tier weapon in Mists, one of the most efficient one, nice AoE clap. But the thing is, open world is an environment where this weapon goes from S tier to C tier, even D tier. Because you need to play in an environment 1 versus X always. There will be gank squads, there will be 2-3 men, and you cannot compete with them. You just cannot. It's not a solo 1v1v1v1 environment when this weapon shine, It's not good. So do not play on it. C tier, like it's not on the level of Galatine Pair and Kingmaker, but don't play on it. If you want, you have money, you don't mind of dying in open world, you can play on it if you enjoy it, but be aware that you're gonna suffer. Again, even with these all useless weapons, keep this in mind, guys. You can survive and make money. Because if you will use Guardian Helmets, Invisibility Potion, Uncaps, Brazilian, and Invisibility Potion, you will be able to escape. Most of the gankers. You will. So, and Royal Sandals, combined with Invisibility Potion. Imagine, you use Royal Sandals, Guardian Helmet with Brazilian Cape and Invisibility Potion. Man, you can escape versus anyone and mount up and run away. I also did not mention mounts. We're gonna talk about mounts a bit later, what mounts you should use. Of course, if you are playing on a super cheap setup, use tier 3, tier 4 horses maximum. Don't go higher if you are playing in a budget build. Battle Axe. Well, Battle Axe is, guys, in open world, is between S and A. I would put it in an A tier, A+ even. It's a very strong weapon. First of all, mobs in open worlds, especially high tier, pretty tanky. It can be dangerous to farm tier 7, tier 8 locations. And Battle Axe will give you insane amount of survivability. The true strength of this weapon will be only when you're gonna open the third Q spell that's with swipes. It is very strong, both in PvE and PvP. Also, you have variety of W spells that you can use as mobility and will help you to survive. Man, this Battle Axe got much more mobility than these weapons in open world. You can take jump on W, you can take adrenaline rush, and please don't use chop attack. in open world while you are farming, you need to focus on these two spells. Either Adrenaline Rush or Jump. Super good weapon. Can be used, again, in various of builds with Assassin Jacket, with Mercenary. It's most of your main pieces of gear that you will use on all melee builds. Use it. Again, the same set of helm. If you want to gank, classic. Assassin Jacket, Fiend Cowl, boots that you like the most. If you have mana issues, so take Cloth Sandals. If you don't, take Healing Boots. And that's all. These items will allow you to gank anything on any setup. It's a golden standard. Even with Mercenary Jacket, yeah. So, Battle Axe is A tier 100%. Great Axe, on the other hand, unfortunately, it's C tier. It's a pure PvE weapon. So Battle Axe, first of all, Battle Axe is used for PvE, PvP. That's why it is good. It's both efficient in these scenarios. Great Axe can be used in PvP efficiently only in small scale, not solo. In solo, it's super easy to avoid it. It's mana hungry. In PvE, it is okay because you have lots of AoE spells. Great Axe, but it's very niche weapon right now. Do not recommend you to play in it. It's on the level of these swords. Only for fun. If you want, play it for fun, do it, but make sure you will not have high efficiency. It's gonna suck. Halberd, on the same level as Great Axe. It's a small-scale ZVZ weapon. Back in the days, it was ZVZ weapon. Right now, it's a small scale. This one, Carrioncaller, it's a Hellgate weapon. Small-scale weapon that reduce heal. Also, you have some AoEs that allow you to farm a bit faster, more efficient. Like, yeah, farm will be at some point even enjoyable, but you're gonna be useless. Straight up gonna be useless. C tier, 100%. This one, on the other hand, Scythe, is very dangerous weapon. Insanely dangerous. Soul Scythe, on the other hand, is very strong in PvE and dangerous in PvP because of its finisher. When your enemy is on 40% of health. I would not put it on A. I would say it's a B tier. If I wanted a PvE weapon that has AoEs and you'll be a dangerous enemy to kill if your ganker will be close to your AP, if it's a solo, even duo, it is Scythe. Yeah, it's a good one. It was recently buffed, changed a bit, so it's pretty decent. And in other type of content, like in small-scale PvP, I know people are using it very often. It's good against newbies. Yes, it's very good. I do love how SBI changed it. Then we're gonna get to a Bear Paws. You might think that you're gonna put it on S tier. The problem with Bear Paws, they are bad in PvE. Okay, not bad, but they are barely okay in PvE. Because you need to spend your E-spell with pure damage that you deal to deal damage to mobs, but once you're gonna be caught without your E-spell, you cannot do shit. You cannot do anything, guys. You just cannot. It's a good ganking weapon. So, to be fair, it's a #1 ganking weapon because of pure damage that it has. It can dismount enemies. Even if it will be 8.4 guy with a 4.0 Bear Paws, you're gonna deal insane amount of damage to this 8.4 guy. That's why you see only Bear Paws. And I think SBI need to rework them and remove this true damage that cannot be blocked into something else and make it a bit more balanced. But again, it is what it is. It's a good ganking weapon, but for open world solo roaming, it's still high tier. I would put it in the A tier, but not in the S tier. It's close to S tier. It's super close to it. Like A+, downside. It's expensive. It's very expensive. As a new player, do not play on it because you're gonna lose all your money. You will. Just don't. The classic build, again, on a Bear Paws, if you're solo roaming, Assassin Jacket, Fiend Cowl, Royal Sandals. You can use mana shoes like run that regenerate your energy, but mostly it's a common one with Undead Cape. But mostly when you see in open world, guys, a Bear Paw with build that I just named, run. You know why? Because he's not solo. Bear Paws never solo. I haven't seen a solo Bear Paw for almost 2 years. They always play in groups. Always. So keep this in mind. Realm Breaker. Realm Breaker is a small-scale PvP weapon. Very strong in PvE even, when you are doing group PvE. But for solo, it is very expensive, not efficient, and very risky. It's a C tier. It's not useless as a D. No, it's a C tier. It's an X with the same access to this Q swipe, to this Ws. Small jump on E spell, but for open world environment, it will not fit, guys. It will just not fit. Again, do not recommend to play in it, especially if you're a new player. Forget about these artifact weapons. Pick something that is much cheaper, that you can afford to lose. The same goes to this weapon. It's actually very good in PvE, surprisingly. It's good in PvE, some sort of semi-mobility, especially after the latest changes, but it's expensive. And do not have an actual dash, an actual way how to survive and escape. It's a small scale also weapon, and it maybe missed in some niche setups, but not for open world. Not for open world. It's an interesting weapon if you just start playing the game. It's a new crystal axe, but not for all this environment, unfortunately. Forget about this weapon. Again, you still can play on them. I remind you, you still can with Assassin Jacket, with invisibility pods, and survive and make money, but it's gonna be a challenge. One-handed mace. One-handed mace, guys, is a B tier. I was planning to put it on an A tier, but it's a very niche weapon. The reason why it's niche, mace in general is pretty strong on high AP in mists. But in open world, you're forced to play not with a farming W, yeah? You're forced to play with roots. That'll give you basically mobility. But if you take roots, the only source of damage that you will have is your E-spell, maybe your jacket, Stalker Jacket, if you want to use for clear speed, but then you lose survivability and escape potential. And your Qs, that's all. And you might think, oh, but I can take Carrion Cape or Tetford Cape. Well, you can, but then you lose survivability. Then you will not be able to use Undead Cape, or you will not be able to use Brazilian Cape to escape. Again, if you're an experienced player, you know how to play the game. You don't need to watch even this tier list. You know it by yourself. If you're experienced one, you can gank and make money on one-handed mace, actually, and transform it into A tier. But for purely PvP reasons, like ganking people on hotspots, it can be very efficient in PvP. But PvE, it sucks. I would not even consider one-handed mace in open world build as a PvE weapon. Only when you already have specs want to hunt people down on a fun build, one-handed mace can be good. Next one, Great Mace, D tier, guys. It's a ZVZ, small scale, weapon with silence on E-spell, two-handed, slow. Forget about this. The same as this one. They're on the same fucking level. Literally the same. Unless you want to get some basic specs on tier 5 locations, tier 6. Then it's fine. Badrock Mace. It's a troll weapon. Will give you lots of survivability though, a lot. But again, the same routes that you'll be forced to use, only Qs, you're gonna suffer in PvE. Don't make your gameplay process difficult. There is no reason to. Forget about it. Incubus Mace is insanely good in PvE, like it's an S A tier weapon, but in small scale, not in the solo. For these reasons, I put it in a D tier. It's not good, guys. The same with this one. It's a ZVZ weapon that gather enemies around. Forget about it. It's D tier. Then we get to a point when you might think as a new player that OathKeepers also gonna put like a C, D tier, but no. I'll be honest. I'll put it, if I could put it between A and B tier, I would put it somewhere in between. I will put it actually right now on B tier. This OathKeepers, man, when I was playing in open world for fun, I was not dying with this weapon. Yeah, clear speed was a bit slow because I was using AoE Q spell, but it was okay-ish. Plus you can use E-spell as a shield to block some damage. You can use E-shield spell, kill some bosses. You can use E-shield spell to mount up while you are taking damage and run away from gankers. You can use E-spell, then use invisibility potion. And no matter how much damage people gonna deal to you, well, matter of course, but you will be able to block an insane amount of damage. People will not reveal your invisibility. So you can use basically your E-spell into invisibility potion and walk away from enemies. And you will not be revealed if they do not have Stalker Hood, of course, or Purge. Easy way to survive. It's a pretty cheap weapon on low tiers, and you might actually enjoy them. This weapon mostly used in small-scale ZVZs as a support weapon because of the shield. But in a solo roam, some people might not even know how strong it can be. Yeah, your clear speed will not be the best, but survivability will be on such a high rate, you'll be surprised how good it is. We were showing it in previous highlights when I was playing in open world on stream, maybe you saw, when we were playing this on this OathKeepers, man, it's such a fun weapon. One of my favorite, by the way. One-handed hammer. Funny enough, in a meta with Stalker Jacket in Mists, it can be used in some troll setups, and you might even have a positive win rate at some point. Good example is Iof, another Albion creator that was playing on one-handed hammer with Stalker Jacket and Mists and was making kills. But you have mobility on W. But for PvE and open world itself, it's just bad. Forget about this weapon. You might, in a troll setup, gank newbies on a hotspots with it. Funny enough, you can. But it's reality, it's D tier. Guys, I'm sorry. The same goes to Polehammer. Troll weapon, you can, well, for solo, yeah, but you can, if you're a very experienced one, gank people on hotspots. Even with this one, the same applied to Great Hammer, the same applied to Tombhammer. But Tombhammer is a bit different. So we're gonna put these three hammers immediately on D tier. It's not a solo one. A Great Hammer is good for mobility. Don't get me wrong, it's S tier in Mists. It's very good in Corrupted Dungeons, even at some kite setups. Yeah, it can be strong. But for open world roam, all you have is just PvP potential. You can run away from people. You can stun lock people and kill them with the poison demon cape and hunt them down with Fiend Cowl. You can, or Armor of Valor. You can hunt newbies with this one. It's a good one. But as a weapon that I would play non-stop in open world, and in open world you need to combine at some point PvE. You cannot do only ganks. I would put it in D tier. I would put it, guys. The same applies to... They're on the same level, by the way. Almost on the same level. It's more for 2v2, for Corrupted Dungeons, for Mists even, but not for open world. PvE gonna be tough. You're gonna slowly kill mobs. It's gonna be suffering. Barely possible. Do not recommend you to play in open world. Even though it's very dangerous in 1v1 fights, especially when Tombhammer will decide to kite you. So no, I would not recommend you to play on it. But escape potential on Great Hammer, yes, it's insane. Tombhammer, they can stun enemy, dash via W, and also run away. It's all about your priorities. For me, it's D tier. This one. This weapon got a bit better PvE potential because of E-Spell. You have mobility on W, but it's still... If there would be tier between C and D, maybe I would put between C and D. But for me, it's D. Forget about this weapon if you want to play open world. It's not very good. You can make it work, again, if you're experienced, but don't. Mostly it's a troll weapon. Groovekeeper is a ZVZ weapon. One-shot semi-setups, combos, not good for solo roam. Even though you have mobility on W, on E-Spell, you're gonna suffer. In PvE, it's gonna be hard. Unless it's like tier 5, tier 6 spots, maybe you can play with these weapons, but no. The same applied... Okay, this one, to be fair, is not so bad in PvE with E-Spell, but still D tier. You can combine, by the way, E-Spell on this weapon with Mercenary Jacket and heal up on full, almost immediately, which is awesome. You have mobility, you have crowd control, you can kite enemies, but again, it's not a weapon for you guys. If you're a new one, semi-experienced, don't play in it. Brawler Gloves, the first glove in our tier list. I would put it on a C tier because PvE, because of E-Spell, might be not so bad as you might think. 1v1 potential is very strong. But the problem with Brawler Gloves, mostly how people play it. They play it in suicide setup when gank people and want to just fight 1v1 people. You have mobility on Qs. You have mobility on triple kick if you want to play triple kick. If you are playing via one-shot setup, you need to take this W with stun and damage, yeah, with knockback. Some people use it with Cleric Rope, Assassin Shoes for dash, and Assassin Hoods. It's a suicide built in Mists. The same way you can use it actually in open world by ganking spots with Invisibility Potion. You can play like that and actually make money and hunt players down. But as a weapon that you would play with Assassin Jacket, you in theory can do it, but there are much better gloves for these purposes. Much better gloves. So it's C tier. For me, it's C tier. But you can also use, by the way, Mercenary Jacket and combine it with triple kick to heal up. But it's very questionable. I probably saw only one Brawler Glove since the last update of Open World, and I killed him. Like, it was not good. I can see how it can be playable, but no. On the same level as the C tier weapons. Mostly in mists, corrupted dungeons, 1v1, strict, direct fight, you go, burst, you either kill or die. That's all. Battle Bracers is very interesting weapon. I play it myself, but you need to understand, if you're a new player and you will start playing on Battle Bracers, you will suffer a bit in PV, because it's not the strongest one because of Qs on gloves. Not the best. You can, of course, take Q3 to increase your auto attack damage, but then you will suffer with energy. You always need to swap spells on your gloves on many builds. That's why I don't like it. PV on Bracers become okay-ish once you're gonna level up it to 100. 100 spec, if you have 100 spec Battle Bracers, it's gonna be A tier. On low tier, if you just start playing and you'll be forced to play tier 5, tier 6 zones when you need to do lots of PvE on low tier, because you cannot physically go to tier 7 or tier 8 because mobs are gonna evaporate you. You're gonna suffer. It will be on B tier. Once you're gonna get specs, it's A tier, because you will have insane amount of flexibility of how you can play the game. You will be able to clear tier 7, some tier 8 spots with, like, it will take some time, but it will be hard, but you will be able to do it. Mostly tier 7 spots will be cleared without any issues. The whole build, a classic one, Assassin Jacket, Fiend Cowl, Mana Shoes. Again, Mana Shoes mostly because you need to make sure that you will not go out of mana during your PvE process, and they are mana hungry. With Undead Key, with Invisibility Potion, you're good to go. It's an A tier. It's not the strongest in 1v1. Many people come on my stream now, man, I play like you on Battle Bracers, I cannot kill anyone. In 1v1, it's hard, even on the same AP, even when my enemy is lower tier, how to kill Battle Axe, you will not kill. Especially if you're not very experienced. Battle Bracers can gank hotspots. Gatherers, by the way, like a Bear Paws. They can clear fast some low tier mobs, they can kill bosses in boss layers, kill people finish on low health, but it's straight 1v1 fight, let's say versus Battle Axe, it's gonna be tough. Even versus Dual Swords, it's gonna be tough. Like, it's gonna be hard. You need to kite a lot. So if you are planning to stick to open world and rely on mobility and accept the fact that you will not be able to take lots of fights 1v1, but you will survive much more often, you can start playing on Battle Bracers. But again, you need to grind some specs. Without specs, they are pretty bad. This one, Spiked Gloves, very good in PvE. You do lots of damage. You have mobility on W, on Q. Clear speed will be decent. But PvP-wise, they suck. They are bad for solo PvP. I'm gonna put it in C tier, only because of PvE potential and okay-ish mobility, like on W, on Qs, that allow you to keep the distance cut the distance between you and your enemy if you want to catch up, or make a distance if you want to run away with Invisibility Potion. It's okay. The same actually apply to these gloves if you want to play with triple kick. But mostly Brawler Gloves are playing with stun on W, so you will not have such mobility. This Ursine Maulers, D tier. It's a small scale gloves and also not the best. Far away to be a good one. Keep this in mind. Like, you can level up this weapon if you don't mind to lose it. Farm low tier mobs. You can. They're not actually so bad. If you're gonna, let's say, gather the whole camp, then use E-spell, and they blow up. But you are spending so much resources. It takes so much time to clear camps. Just much better and cheaper options in higher tier. Hellfire Hands, it's interesting weapon. I play it myself a lot in open world, and mostly I don't do PvE. I only aim for kills with Royal Helmets, Assassin Jacket, and maxed out specs. There are two ways how you can play on Hellfire. Okay, three ways. Cheap setup with PvE only, and it's actually not bad. In PvE, to be fair, it's actually not bad. But if you can only afford it, yeah? Hellfire Hands with Assassin Jacket, Mage Cowl with Knockback, and just do PvE until you will get specs. Once you're gonna get specs, you can take Assassin Jacket, Royal Helmet, and keep ganking people. But the thing is, you have only one attempt You dive into enemy, you land your stun with the Royal Helmet, you land your EW, a reset fight if it's a tanky boy, and do combo one more time. Plenty of examples of on my stream, on my highlights, how you can play on them. But it's a B tier. It's a B tier. Because of, I only put it here because of insane clap potential. Imagine, you dive someone with invisibility potion, you land your stun, EW, immediately kill. Especially if they will be on 70% of health. It's super easy to make kills on enemies like that. The problem is, it becomes efficient with such type of playstyle that I described only on 100 specs plus. So we keep this in mind. As a new player that don't know anything about the game, I would not recommend to play in it. I would not, but it's very fun playstyle. That's for sure. This one, bad weapon, ZVZ, don't play in it. Long cast time, it's not a solo, forget about it. You can play it for fun if you want, because you have still mobility as like from Q and W, gloves, but no. Avalonian gloves. I'll be honest, I would put Avalonian gloves on B tier also. You might not agree with me, but PvE, the thing is, bracers are not the strongest in PvE, but at least they have a fast clap with immediate damage. On Avalonian gloves, you need to jump. You need to press E-spell one more time in this area, hit these mobs. It goes on high cooldown, but not pretty high, but cooldown. It's too much actions that you need to perform. This weapon I still put in a B tier, even though they are a bit worse than Battle Bracers, the classic one. They have a PvP potential. You can gank people with it. Practice successfully on hotspots. With invisibility, you can play with Assassin Jacket. There is an option to play like a mist build via full kite, via fail scale rope. But solo, I do not recommend you to do that. It's a bad idea, guys. Do not do that. Because you're very squishy, you have only one attempt to kill, and if you fail and there will be two guys, you might die actually. With Gank Squad, it also will be hard to survive. But Assassin Jacket's classic build, if you want to gank only people, might fit. You either can play with Fiend Cowl or even without, because you have built-in Purge. But I would anyway play with Fiend Cowl. Anyway, I would. Or maybe even Cultist Cowl. Maybe Avalonian Beam, regular Beam. Helmet would fit these purposes. You'll be fine. So yeah, with Mana Shoes, obviously, with Undead Cape. It can be a more PvP focused weapon. Let's say it like that. Let's go next. It's a one-shot crossbow. Only PvP purposes. PvE. Okay, let's say it like that. All crossbows that we will have, all of them can do PvE pretty successfully. They are very strong in PvE, no matter what kind of crossbow you're gonna take a look at. Because of Qs, because of passive that allow you to refresh these Qs. But then there is a question about their survivability and PvP potential. So you can use anything you want, that you can afford, you like to play in PvE. Any of them. They have their own pros and cons. But for open world purposes, it's gonna be hard to achieve high win rate and high survivability, especially if you're a new player. Talking about this weapon, yeah? It's a one-shot, basically crossbow. You can play via kite with Assassin Jacket and knockback on W and cast your E-spell fast, or you can play with Schooler Rope and Demon Helmet with Silence into W that reduce resistance. So basically combo, you cast Boots, you cast your Demon Helmet to silence your enemy, then Schooler Rope, then W, then E-spell, and you're gonna deal like insane amount of damage on the same AP enemy if it's a leather or cloth player. But it's a D tier. I'm sorry, it's a D tier. It's very niche, super easy to die, super easy to outplay, and risky setup. Will not suggest you. This one, on the other hand, has much more potential in open world because it's kite potential. I can put it on C tier. I realistically can put it on C tier because of E-spell that allow you to basically play a Warbow, but with instant damage. This has much more potential. It can clear mobs, it can kite enemies. It's a very dangerous setup, especially if you face this enemy on the same tier. But the problem with this weapon is to finish. It will be super hard to finish enemies if they will run away from you. It might be a challenge to survive if there will be several enemies. you'll be forced to fight them. So either you will rely on the fact that you're gonna kill your enemy faster than he does, and on upkeeps with invisibility potions. There are ways how you can play with this weapon, like playing with the royal heavy boots to compensate these mobility issues. Yeah, I know you can use traps that give you movement speed, but again, it's unreliable, and open world environment in Black Zone is not the same like in Mists. This weapon will perform much better. I would put it even in a B tier if it will talk about Mists. Close to A tier. I'm not even joking, it can be. The same applies, by the way, the same playstyle like with this one to Light Crossbow. Light Crossbow even more efficient than this one. It's one of the best in PvE. Again, crossbows are very good in PvE because of Qs. Insane clear speeds, good clear speeds. It's one-handed, you can combine it with either Torch if you're super cheap setup or Mist Collar to reduce your cooldowns even more. Classic builds for this Light Crossbow will be Cleric Robe, Guardian Helmet, sometimes Smartlock if it's a Mist, but for open world I think it's gonna be on that cape anyway, with Healing Boots. Food on CDR, you have low CDR thanks to Mist Collar, thanks to your food, and you will have decent mobility if there will be mobs around to stack your Ws with movement speed. Again, I saw players, good players, are very dangerous in open world. If they are fighting 1 versus 2, 1 versus 1, it's very hard to kill sometimes enemies. It's very hard. But it's a glass cannon build. Do not recommend you to play in PvP if you're a new player, but if you want to do PvE and you like crossbows, you might take a look on it. Yeah. It's very niche. You're still gonna be far away from A, but with enough investment into Albion knowledge, you can transform this light crossbow to be close to A tier. AB. You can. Survivability will suck though. This one, anyway, D tier, don't play in it. It's a bomb. PvE might be good though. Yeah, even better than this light crossbow at some point if you will gather all mobs together. But PvP potential is around 0. It's for small scale. People were using back in the days in ZVZs. Right now, I'm not sure. Just don't. Forget about it. Choose between, if we want to play crossbow in open world, between two of them. And then, one of the most favorite weapons of all newbies in Albion Online is this one. The thing is, the problem with this weapon, I forgot its name, Boltcasters. Boltcasters. They are dangerous. They are very dangerous. If they will cast E-Spell into some kind of crowd control, like a silence, let's say, they can erase your ass super fast. But if you're gonna play on a meta builds that mentioned like in S, A, B tier, even in C tier, you can easily avoid this combo and fuck them up. You can go like a full tanky build, mercenary jacket, double mercenary jackets with these Qs, single Qs to heal up super fast. You'll be tanky as hell, but and PvE is okayish versus tanky enemies. It's very strong. On paper, it's very good weapon. But in reality, you're gonna feed. You're gonna feed, you're gonna die, your survivability is around 0. Experienced player, when see Boltcaster, it's a free money. In most of the cases. So, it's a D tier. Unfortunately, guys, it's a D tier. Even though with some hidden potential, it's a D tier. The same will apply to this one. Like, clear speeds will be also insanely high because of AoE E-Spell, because of pure damage. But price, it's a small scale ZVZ weapon, ZVZ mostly because of pure damage. Will not fit for solo. Just forget about it. The same applies to Energy Shaper. You saw me playing an Energy Shaper for fun. It's a troll build, one shot. It's a ZVZ one. ZVZ, small scale, large scale. I'm not sure even people do use it still. It might be very unreliable even in ZVZ fights. Imagine solo with this laser. Don't play in it. Then we get to bows. So crossbows you understood. C tier with the potential to upgrade it with enough in-game knowledge to be to A, even A tier at some point, but you need to be very good player to put it to a level of A tier. I saw only like 2-3 players that I probably know that can do that. Mostly it's gonna be C tier for majority of players. Keep this in mind. But for PvE purposes, again, crossbows, all good. Bows. Regular bow. Man. C tier. Might be very strong in 1v1 straight fight, especially when you use Mercenary Jacket. You just use your E auto attacks and like space bar. Use Frost Shot. But it will be hard to... Again, you can actually kill people with it. You can. You have Frost Shot, some kind of mobility, auto attacks, etc. But it's something in the middle. It's so-so for open world PvP and so-so in PvE. Okay, PvE versus bosses, tanky mobs, it might be actually okay. I would not say it's so-so in PvE. Anyway, Crossbow is gonna be better. But yeah, you mostly rely only on your E-spell. When your E-spell is on cooldown, you're basically useless. Or close to be useless. Very cheap though. Very cheap. You can, if you... it's very close to light crossbow at some point. If you have high specs, your in-game knowledge on a decent level, you can transform it into a B tier. You can do it, but barely. You cannot finish enemies in Undead Capes. You will have no options. You either need to play with poison to finish an Undead Cape. Survivability compared to crossbows will be higher, mostly because of Frost Shot. It will be. But it's still C tier, guys. Very bad. You cannot normally gank anyone. You vulnerable. Will be gankers. You're probably gonna be fucked. And you need some kind of knockback to survive, I guess. Versus melee players as on a helmet. It's so-so. But again, as a cheap weapon to just hit mobs, on them, tier 5, tier 6, might be okay. Let's go to next one. Warbow. Warbow, back in the days, was S tier. In open world. Back in the days. Now it's a very outdated weapon. Very annoying to fight versus, yeah, because it kite non-stop with this E-spell nuke. But PvE potential of this weapon... Again, when I say PvE potential on bows, I assume that by default you're gonna play with Frost Shot, not Roots. Because open world is about mobility and survivability. You can of course play with Roots, but if something extraordinary gonna happen, there will be a gank squad, and if you have Roots, you are dead, man. You are dead. You need to focus on survivability. It should be your priority number one. That's why I assume you by default gonna play with Frost Shot. So, it's a PvP weapon. If you're gonna play it as a PvP to gank people on hotspots, it might be between B and C. I would say if you're experienced player, very experienced player, and you want to only gank spots, it can be B tier. I would say B tier. But PvE experience, I was thinking actually to record a video when we could play on a Warbow for the next few days in open world. It will be interesting content. It will be, but I need some specs. And again, yeah, it's very high spec dependent weapon. On low spec, as a new player, never play on Warbow. Like, forget about it. Do not touch this bow. It's might be very annoying to fight, and again, some point even strong. At some point, again, don't scream on me. In crafted dungeons, it can be even usable. Man, hell, in mists at some point. Not be the best out of the best, but at least usable if you want to red, finish someone, kite a bit. Not the best, but it can be. In open world, on spots that we have right now, kill potential is much higher, because killing gatherers with Warbow gonna be almost impossible. So yeah, Warbow, you know what? Fuck that. What am I talking about? It's a B tier, a C tier, sorry. It's not even B tier, it's a C tier. Only PvP, and that's all. Longbow, the dark horse of Albion Online. You might think that I'm crazy. You think that I'm dumb? It's a B tier. It's a better Warbow. Longbow, it's a better Warbow. PvE clear speed, incredible. Kite potential because of buffed. Maybe you do not know that, but E-spell on Longbow was buffed. It got very low cooldown, very high damage, and even if you will cast it not for the full duration, gonna deal decent damage, and it's very strong enemy to fight, especially if gonna kite in 1v1. It's very strong. Maybe, you know what, I mentioned that I'm gonna play on Warbow. Fuck that, I'm gonna play on Longbow. I'm gonna show it live on stream, why it is strong. Again, it's maybe my biased opinion, subjective tier list, of course, but in my opinion, it can be in B tier, but no one is playing it. I want to mention, no one is playing longbow in open world. I think it should be in B tier. So, question mark, should you trust me on this or not? But I promise you, there will be a video when we're gonna play on a longbow. If your experienced player also was playing this game for a long time, you was following patch notes, you are playing the game on different weapons, trying to experiment, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, how busted longbow right now is. Yeah, after all these changes. It's crazy good. Let's go next. Whispering Bow. Whispering Bow can be used as a solo in a burst setups. Like you can use it with Mercenary Jackets. You can use it with Assassin Jackets as a kite. You can actually play with Assassin Jacket in Mercenary and keep your enemy on the distance. You can play with Hellion Hood even. I forgot to mention Hellion Hood is an option how to you can play in open world because it also resets mob aggro, allow you to run away. And Hellion Hood in open world with Whispering combo might work. But overall, it's bad weapon because it's not so good in PvE. It's C tier, guys. Maybe close to D tier, I'll be honest. You can use it in the gank squads as a semi-support damage weapon. But the thing is, right now, so many weapons has so much mobilities, reflects, etc. It's super easy. No, it's a D tier. Like, longbow, reflect is not a problem because you can cancel E-spell and wait for low cooldown and repeat again when reflects will be on cooldown. This one, man, if there will be reflect, you are fucked. Plus, you're taking more damage while your E-spell is active. It's a D tier, can be used in small scale gank squads again as a bonus damage support weapon. Back in the days, it was meta even in corrupted dungeons for a short period of time because it's a strict 1v1 environment and you could start a fight on a range and win a trade thanks to this. Right now, it's not the case. So Whispering is a D tier. Wailing Bow was recently buffed a bit, but it's a ZZ weapon. It's bad for solo. By default, will not even explain you why. It's just bad. Don't play it as a solo. It's a joke. Don't play it. Don't. Let's go next. A Whispering Bow is better than Bow in open world. Both should be D tier. Anderson, you know what? You're right. Fuck regular Bow. It's gonna go in D tier. Completely agree with you. You know what? Versus this argument, you are right. A Bow of Badon, guys, is between S and A tier. We're gonna put it on A tier, but close to S. Bow of Badon was recently changed in a way that E-spell is not reflectable anymore. It got insane AoE farm potential. It can gather all mobs, especially if you have high specs. You can gather all camp on tier 6, tier 7 location, cast your E-spell, and with Qs immediately clear it, and you are Gucci. You are good. Ganking potential is also nice. Kite, you have kite potential. Again, not the highest mobility if we compare it to Bear Paws and Battle Bracers, but with food on cooldown reduction, you can come close to them. Still, you will lack mobility, but it's a good weapon. To kill people in undead capes, gank them, PvE is good, PvP is good. You can use it, hell, even for trekking. For Avalonian rows, you can use it in Bow of Badon. But make sure that you need to keep in mind that Badon E-spell do not work with Mercenary Jackets. Back in the days it was, and it was busted as hell. Now it's not. But even without that, it's still very strong. And keep in mind also, when you cast your E-spell and activate your Assassin Jackets, it will reveal your Assassin Jacket. Do not use them at the same time, and you're good to go. You can play with Fiend Cowl, you can play with... well, Fiend Cowl, no, I'm not sure. I don't like Fiend Cowl on Bow of Badon, I'll be honest. Something like Cultist, something like Avalonian Beam Helmet is a good one. Yeah, with Undead Cape Assassin Jacket will be good to go. Also built with a Skinner Cap that you can use, but it's very niche. I personally do not like it, but it can definitely work. Avalonian Bow. It's a dark horse of Albion, but for open world it will not fit, realistically. It was buffed several patches, like few times in a row, and E-spell become very strong, insanely strong. I see insane potential in small-scale PvP, in some even mist environment, maybe in corrupted dungeons on niche, like... But again, for open world, it sucks. It's D tier. Unfortunately, guys, it's D tier. The only PvE clear speed, like, you can actually gather all mobs in one line and use E-spell, and you will be fine to clear them. You can use this E-spell for clearing spots, but open world, it will not fit. I'm sorry, it will not. Like, experienced player can make it work to C tier, close to B tier, But again, even experienced player probably gonna lose lots of money to gank squads, and it depends. It depends. For new player, do not recommend. It's D tier, forget about it. And now we're gonna talk about daggers. One-handed dagger, guys, is incredible in PvE. Right now, before we started even recording this tier list, I was playing in open world on this one-handed dagger. There are two ways how you can play it. Pure PvE and mix between PvE and PvP builds. Pure PvE, super cheap, 4.1, 5.1, 5.0 set with Assassin Hood, Hunter Jacket or Assassin Jacket. Assassin Hood to refresh your E-spell combo with Hunter Jacket if you want to, or Assassin Jacket for survivability with Torch as an offhand, Mana Shoes. And you can play in a cheap setup. I was playing, by the way, with new content tablet with this one-handed dagger on a 0 to hero character, 0 to hero run we made, and it was very cool. It was so efficient. Higher specs you have, faster you're gonna clear. You can be able to clear all tier 5 super easy with no specs, even tier 6. So later when you open this passive in a tree to deal damage to tier 6 mobs, it's super nice weapon choice for newbie players who want to do PvE mostly. But it will suck in PvP if you will not change build. But if you want to change build, and first of all, let's put it in the B tier. I think it's between A and B tier. I'll be honest, it's between A and B. If you will have enough knowledge, you can easily make it A or close to be A. But for now, let it be in B tier. PvP build and PvE build that you should use. It's the same build as in Mists. It's a Hunter Jacket, it's Torch, but Helmet of Valor that allow you to purge enemies, to finish them in Undead Capes, to purge defensives with Mana Shoes. Also, if you will cast it on yourself, you'll be able to remove Coldest Cowl debuff. You mostly will play in such setup in PvP build with Shadow Edge, because you will not be able to, you will not have time to change your W if you will be ganked or there will be a fight. You will not have this time. So most of the time you will run with Shadow Edge. There are also ways like a niche setups when you can still play in a high tier with Assassin jackets and rely on invisibility, but I assume you are not very experienced and it's a very risky way how you should play. I would not recommend. So Hunter Jacket, Helmet of Valor with this Purge, Torch, Mana Shoes, Undead Cape, Invis Spots. That's a decent one. I like to play on this build. Beast 1K is playing on this build. He also enjoys it. There are some highlights probably on YouTube that you'll be able to find with this setup. Very good one. Love it. It's my favorite, one of my favorite dagger builds actually, that I would enjoy to play like on daily basis. Dual daggers back in the days, were so good. Because game was different. Amount of health that people had was smaller, TTK, time to kill, was smaller, potion changes, movement speed changes, made this weapon, even though it got some buffs, like E-spell become uninterruptible, higher range, it's still very risky weapon, and you will make kills. You can make kills. Okay, let's put it on C tier. It's a C tier weapon. PvE also is not bad, because you can play with AoE Q spell, cast on 3 mobs AoE Q spell, then your E-spell is already full stacked, you can cast E-spell immediately, erase mobs. PvE experience is very enjoyable also on these dual daggers. Very enjoyable. But when it comes to PvP, that's a problem, because very often you need to change your Qs and Ws, and you might not have time for that. Sometimes you need to use press tech Q spell with Shadow Edge and play via kite, yeah? Like Shadow Edge, E-spell, then go invisibility, wait for your cooldown, or kite enemy, then clap again, and you might not have this time. If you're gonna be ganked, you are doomed, because the only mobility you have is AoE Q jumps and W dashes or Shadow Edge or throwing blades. If you can play most of the time even with these throwing blades, and you'll be fine. PvE is good, PvP questionable, and yeah, on the level of these weapons. I'll be honest, very niche, even though it has like a big damage numbers when you land it, but good luck landing it. You will fail in lots of scenarios. Again, builds. You can play with Assassin Jacket, you can even play with Mercenary Jackets because of high attack speeds. You will be able to heal up at some point, and PvE experience will be very enjoyable with Mercenary Jacket and Dual Daggers. The good thing about this, pros, like it's very cheap. You can take even, if you like to play on daggers and you want to do only PvE, tier 5, tier 6 locations and rely on escape via invisibility potion, tier 5, tier 6 mobs, even tier 7, super fast, gonna die pretty fast. Claws. Unfortunately, it's a D tier. The only thing that you can do normally with claws, PvE you will be able to do on super high specs only. It's single target E-spell that force you to stay on a spot, especially when mobs are casting these huge AoE damage abilities. You need to always move. You don't have such option. You can use claws only for ganking, mostly. With invisibility potion, it might work. But again, very niche. Do not recommend you to play in it. Very niche. Mostly people use claws in a small group squads to dismount, to keep enemy on one place. I would put it in a D tier. Even though, like, if you have enough experience in the game, you can make it work to top C tier. At some point, like a Whispering Bow, you can, but forget about this weapon. Now, the most OP meta in Mists that we had for a long time in open world. Bloodletter. You might think that I will put Bloodletter in open world meta as an S tier. Let's talk about, but spoiler, I will not. It has one of the highest mobilities in the game. Definitely. It has one of the highest mobilities in the game. Kill potential, gank potential. PvE, so-so. I'll be honest, dual daggers, one-hand dagger will have much smoother PvE experience than Bloodletter. The thing is, why it's strong in Mists. In Mists, mostly people play Bloodletter with two options in 1v1v1 environment. It's either you rat with Assassin Jacket, yeah, with an invisibility and finish players, or you play with Stalker Jacket via Kite and Fire Shield. But open world is a bit different. On spots in 1v1 in straight face-to-face fight, you cannot fight people like that. You will not be able to kite them like in Mists, because there are much more randomized scenarios that might occur. Black Zone is not... It's still a good weapon, don't get me wrong. It's one of the best weapons if you are a gatherer. If you want to only gank people. If you have also, it will work in most of the cases. Only it will work in most of the cases if you have specs. As a new player, if you want to do PvE and PvP, never. It's a D tier. It's close to D tier. I'm not even joking, guys. PvE, PvP, as a new player, D tier. Forget about this weapon. Don't fucking touch it. Don't touch it. It's not your toy. Leave it somewhere else. But once you're gonna get enough in-game experience, and you're gonna play not with Stalker Jacket, because you will not be able normally to roam and survive versus these gank squads, versus other players, versus duos, because there might be, on solo spots, there might be two guys playing together with a healer, and you will not be able to do anything. You will not be able to dive them in a Stalker and kill them unless you have huge IP advantage. But since we are talking about open world, playing with the high tier items is also not the best way how to play the game, because there will be always a bigger fish. Okay, gank squads, PvP squads that are gonna punish you, catch you with 10-man squad, and you're gonna be dead anyway, even though you have high mobility. So, pros is high mobility, finish potential, and very strong on high IP. If you have good experience in the game, you can place it in close to A tier. As a regular daily basis weapon, you can close it. You can put it in A tier. But for me, it's a B tier. It's in reality, it's between B and A tier right now. It's between B and A, but not straight A weapon. I'm sorry, guys, it's not. So it's a B tier. Again, you might not agree with me. You might be, oh my god, how you can... No, that's the reality. Open world is one environment. Mists is another environment. You need to realize that. It's still good, very good. But as a new player, don't play on it. Only later you can come up to this weapon with enough experience and specs. And again, built for open world classic, you can play with Fiend Cowl, Assassin Jacket Torch, and it's fine. You can play with, instead of Fiend Cowl, you can take something like on damage. Even Mage Cowl will fit. If you have high specs, you can just brawl enemies and finish newbies and feed on newbies. But mostly it's Fiend Cowl, it's a classic one. The next one, this... Guys, who remember what's the name of this weapon? Demon Fang. Thank you. I forgot. That's all you need to know about this weapon. I even forgot its name. Demon Fang, to be fair, in PvE, it's a C tier. Fuck me, maybe even close to B tier. PvE, it's very strong. AoE, swipes, gather all mobs, 1, 2, 3 with Mercenary Jacket, clearing spots, and probably it's cheap because no one is using it. But in reality, it's D tier. It's just a D tier. You can make it work in terms of PvP, in PvP aspect of the game, in a small scale, like a niche weapon. But mostly it's not the case. Yeah, like you will not be able to be efficient with it, guys. You will not. Forget solo. Maybe for PvE purposes, for fun, you can use it. Now, let's get to Death Givers. Oh my. Death Givers, guys, is one of the strongest weapon since release on any stage of the game. When they added this weapon, it was always shining. Like, it was so good. It is so incredible. It's so nice. I would put Death Givers, I'll be honest. I want to put, listen, I want to put this Death Giver on S tier. I really want to. But I don't know. On a line with Bracers also can be good. Bow of Badon, Battle Axe, Bear Paws as a ganking tool that I mentioned before. It might be S tier. I'm still hesitating. I'm not sure. If there will be a tier between S and A, I would put it between S and A. Because still, on a Battle Axe, you can kill Death Givers. You can outkite and kill it even on Battle Bracers, this Death Giver. But Death Giver got so much tools that allow you to survive in the open world, so much mobility, so much burst damage. Yeah, it's a pretty expensive weapon. It's expensive weapon. Yeah. For now, I'll put S, but it will be like A plus tier, not S tier. I'm not sure it's supposed to be an S tier. You know what? I'm gonna put it in A. But in reality, it should be an A plus. It's very expensive. It's meta, used everywhere. No matter you are playing Mists, you can make it work. It's meta in Mists. Not like it's meta. Open world roaming, ganking gatherers, farming spots, PvE, like PvP Gank Gear, pure PvP ganking, PvE plus PvP. Death Givers are one of the best because you can spam your E-spells without any cooldown if you land your jump Q on mobs. Like, it's crazy. Mobility. When you use E-spell on mobs, you become invisible to players. You have a Shadow Edge option. You have a dash option. You have burst damage. You can combine your invisibility that you get from E-spell to heal up with your mercenary jacket to make sure that people will not be able to purge you in 1v1 fight immediately. So you use your mercenary jacket, then E-spell immediately and land few auto attacks, and once you're gonna be visible and people will react to purge your shit, to purge your mercenary jacket, it will be too late because you will have almost the full value of the mercenary jacket. Assassin jacket kite. You can play with a kite setup also. In corrupted dungeons, it can be and can be used in many scenarios. Like, it's in gank squads, in small scale PvP, it's such a superior weapon in many scenarios. It's just wild. I don't know. Maybe someday SBI will change it a bit or tune it down, but so many players gonna be mad about that. But it is what it is. It's A+. It's close to S tier. It's very close to S tier. It's not S+. It's not S. I would not say for open world specifically, I would not call it an S. Because, guys, don't forget we are talking about strictly about open world. And if we're talking about strictly open world, in many scenarios, guys, I'm not gonna lie, Battle Axe might be much better in PvE. Battle Axe, yeah, in PvE. This one, Battle Bracers, in pure mobility and escaping, might be much better, and AoE claps than Death Givers. Bow of Badon in some scenarios might be better than Death Givers when you need to clear lots of mobs at the same time. Like, so it's still loose in some aspects to other weapons in this A tier, but still very strong. Build. You can play with Mercenary Jacket, like I said, Stalker Hood with Undead Cape, Invisibility Potion, Mana Shoes. You can play with Assassin Jacket, Stalker Hood, or Fiend Cowl, and the Mercenary Jacket with Fiend Cowl combination. Also, it's pretty good. And Eel Stew as a food, or Avalonian Stew to not to bother about health regeneration, so you would have some kind of buff on damage. That's how you should play Death Givers. Very strong, but very expensive. Maybe not the best, probably, when you will be a new player, because of price-wise. Imagine you're buying 500,000 build, and your build will gonna cost around 500,000, because once you are playing with Death Givers, probably you also should invest into Undead Cape, in some invisibility potions, a bit higher tier of your armor, and once you're gonna die, it will hurt. So later, when you will have established economy, you can switch on Death Givers and play on them. The next one is Bridled Fury. Bridled Fury, back in the days it was a good weapon, but then they remove iframe on a jump and strictly ZVZ weapon, D tier, just D tier. Even this damage from a clap that it has is not enough to actually make even. But again, PvE will be okayish, but not even close to even dual dagger, so one-handed dagger. Funny enough. even with this AoE clip. I would not count it as a really good weapon. Very niche. It's a ZVZ one. Small scale. Now we get to spears, guys. The moment that you was waiting for. One-handed spear. Again, we are talking about open world, guys. Open world environment. It's open world tier list. Yep, it's S tier. One-handed spear, it was literally created for open world. It can do PvE, stay on full health even with Assassin Jacket. It can finish players. It has built-in cripple ability that allow you to hunt gatherers, players on spots with the instant E ability, give you insane amount of survivability. Like, it's so good. It's bet 1 versus X. Let's say if there will be 2 enemies that you need to fight, the same AP, it's gonna be bad. But for solo purposes, to gank people, to farm mobs, to do boss layers, to gank gatherers, to feed on players, it's very good. Toolkit that one-handed spear has is insane. It's literally insane. You have so much variety of W spells. Yeah, mostly you will play with cripple. If you are in PvP, ready for PvP, you're gonna play mostly with cripple. But it's incredible. Maybe not the strongest versus some specific builds weapons that might be even in a D tier. It might be not the best, but it's just created for open world environment. The way how you can play it. If you're playing on a low tier, let's say, tier 4, and you want to do PvE, you can take Mercenary Jacket with Forest of Spears on W and clear all mobs super fast, and do not care even if you will die, because your toolkit, guys, on low tier of spears are gonna cost, and price-wise, yeah, but that's also the reason why I put it on S tier. One of the reasons. It will be so cheap that you do not even care. Mercenary Jacket 4.0, 4.1 with Mage Cowl with knockback, Torch as an offhand, Soldier Boots or Energetic Sprint on any cloth sandals, and you're good to go. You might struggle a bit and why what you told me to play on this is not clearing super fast. Yeah, but it scales so well with item power, with specs, it's just crazy. And the funny thing that you will be able to counter with this one-handed spear almost everything in ABC tier, like this. In open world, or at least not today, so keep this in mind. The only real enemy that you might struggle could be Deathgiver, Battle-Axe, but again, you can kite them out. It's a counter pick, by the way, for Battle Bracers, one-handed spear, like literally a counter pick, so keep this in mind. It's a very strong weapon. Again, mostly people play with Assassin Jacket, Fiend Cowl, Torch, Mana Shoes, Healing Boots, and you're good to go. You also can play with Mercenary. If you want to, let's say, especially if you want to play in tier 8 zones with harder mobs, Mercenary Jacket will be a lifesaver. It's a good one. Very good one. Just a very solid weapon. S tier. Open world, definitely. Pike. Pike, guys, it's just strictly for 1v1 fights. Rely mostly on auto attack stacked Q spell. There are some good builds that you can play on with Assassin Jacket, with Cleric mostly. So the most common it's a Cleric build, the same as with Glaive, by the way. They have similar playstyle at some point, but not the best for open world. You can do PvE like B tier, not in B tier. I would put Pike even in the C tier. Close to B. Okay, listen, if you have enough experience on these two weapons, let's talk about these two weapons at the same time, because they are very similar in terms of playstyle. Glaive, though, have more kite potential, because once your enemy will come too close to you, you can make a distance. But yeah, Glaive is so-so in PvE. It's close. Okay, C tier, I think it's fine. Pike and this one, I don't know. Don't play on them. They're close to D tier for open world. Again, they can be strong. In many scenarios, they can be. But as a new player, one-handed spear and don't bother about anything. Forget about these two weapons. Then Heron Spear. Some people think it's good weapon. I'm sorry to disappoint you. For open world, it sucks. It simply sucks. If you're an experienced player, you can make it B tier. You have like AoE stun with some kind of damage. Combine it especially with Forest of Spears combo, with Mercenary Jacket. You're gonna be tanky boy. But finishing players, ganking them, gonna be a challenge at some point. You don't have any mobility. You can kite if enemy is following you and you're running away from enemy and kite them back, yeah, then yeah. Otherwise, not. It's a very strong weapon in small scale PvP. In combination or with Wildfire, let's say, yeah, or some kind of burst. When you're playing as a 4-5 man party, you have some kind of damage dealer with cloth, you just stun like 5 enemies at the same time, then another clap incoming and you will erase your enemies. It's a good, very good and small scale support weapon. I do like it. Especially, again, you have a synergy with your teammates. Solo, very questionable weapon. Once you miss, you are fucked. Sometimes there might be a ping difference where you're gonna miss, or a skill issue, and both is fine. Do not recommend. Mostly it's C tier. Spirit Hunter got nice PvE, surprisingly. Very nice PvE, but suck at PvP in 1v1. Unless it's... Okay, you can use Incorrupted, to be fair, and you'll be okay-ish at some point. But in open world, no. It's a mostly ZVZ small scale weapon also, but for solo gameplay, you can do only PvE. PvP, no. Don't play in it. It's bad. Only if you need to level up it and you have a hideout somewhere in the black zone and you want to level up the specs on this weapon, yeah, you can do and you'll be fine in PvE. E-spell into Forest of Spears or even an Impaler, and mobs are dead with a few Qs and you're good. But for open world playstyle, no, 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 and no. Next one is Trinity Spear. Trinity Spear is very strong in corrupted dungeons. If you was playing like for many years, it's still in one of the most used weapons there for a reason. Like auto attacks on this weapon, they hurt, man. Combining with E-spell, with iframe that you have from this E-spell. But for open world scenario, it's bad. It's also a C tier. If it could be like corrupted dungeon environment, I would put it in B tier. Yeah, if it would be corrupt dungeon, close to A, yeah, like a B tier, B8 tier, yeah. Open world, C tier. Not good. You can try, of course, again, and they are good in corrupted dungeons, corrupted. With Cleric, mostly common build, Hunter Hood or Guardian, like mostly Hunter, and attack enemies with high damage auto attacks. In open world, you will not have such option. I'll be honest. You need to go in survivability and mobility itself. And PvE will be on huge parts of your roam experience. And ganking with this weapon, like you can take Harpoon, of course, or rely on auto attacks, like you can take Purge Helmet. If you have enough experience in the game, you can gank people. But there are better options. Don't play on it unless it's corrupted dungeon. Open world, no. Daybreaker, though, was buffed not long time ago. It got faster animation, if I'm not mistaken. It got native damage that do not depend on Q stacks, but higher cooldown than E-spell on one-handed spear, and many scenarios very predictable and very avoidable. Let's say it like that. But it's an A tier. This Daybreaker gonna be played in the same playstyle, basically like one-handed spear. I still put it on A. I know it's purges, yes, but again, only because it has still a cast time, predictable, pretty expensive, I'm gonna put it on A tier. But it's a decent option. Put it even A minus a bit, but it's still a good one. You can play with Mercenary, Assassin, Helmet. You can use like even Duskweaver Helmet with this if you want to hunt down players. You still can use Fiend Cowl though. With Torch, with Undead Cape, Healing Boots or Mana Shoes. Mana Shoes if you don't want to manage your energy, not care about this. It's a good option. It can be played in open world. Okay, guys, I forgot to mention there is no Crystal Dagger in this weapon tier list, unfortunately. Crystal Dagger that they added not long time ago. I don't see it. But Crystal Dagger, imagine, it is in this list. I would put it on C tier. It's after even a few changes that this weapon had. So no, it's still a very bad option. You can do PvE, yeah, PvE is enjoyable, but PvP is unreliable. Better play on one-handed dagger. Crystal Dagger I would put on C tier. Crystal Glaive is very unique weapon, very unique. It was changed, nerfed at some point. When I was playing it, I'll be honest, PvE experience was decent. But when we're gonna talk about PvP and accessibility for a new player, in general, I would put it in C tier. It's expensive. Don't play in it. It's very expensive. It's a mostly for small-scale ZVZ weapon. Right now, I'm not even sure people still use it or not in this type of content, but definitely not solo. It's more for fun weapon. If you're experienced player, of course, again, you can make it work and gank people, kill, because it's still a spear with Fiend Cowl and ganks people on spots, but don't use it. It's close to actually D tier, I'll be honest. Like a Trinity Spear also is close to D tier, but I'll put it in C tier. It's not a good one. If you want to try it out, make sure that you have enough money to compensate your death losses, because you're gonna die a lot. And it's gonna hurt your wallet, that's for sure. It's a regular quarterstaff, yeah? You'll be surprised, guys, but this regular quarterstaff, if there will be a tier between A and B, it's gonna be in the middle. close to A even. It will be super close to A, but I'm gonna put it in B. The reason, it's very cheap, very enjoyable PvE experience, various of ways how you can play with it. Animations are incredible, of auto attacks, of spells. You even have a small iframe, like it's crowd control immunity even on a jump, so you can pass through walls. You can play around mobs with this quarter staff. Like, it's very close to be A tier. Very close. I would want to put it on A tier, to be fair. You know, fuck it. I'm gonna put it on A tier for open world. Because, again, of a price of Wukong style, yeah. So you play mostly with AoE Q spell, with this Whirlwind, yeah. W, if you play, let's say, with some sort of Demon Cape, you can take a stun run, or for a roam ability, or you can take W ability with these 3 hits that deal pretty decent damage and give you at auto attack and movement speed bonus. Movement speed also, yeah, probably, movement speed also. If you hit it 3 times your enemy. You can combine it with Mercenary Jacket, like it's such a nasty combo. Like, if there will be an enemy and 1 mob, you're gonna cast Mercenary, and 1 Q, you're gonna get almost full heal. You can explode enemies on, let's say, on AoEs that mobs are spawning, and time it well with your E-spell and knock back them. You can iframe. It's very efficient, cheap weapon that you can play on. I would say it's very newbie friendly. I'll be honest, it's a very newbie friendly weapon. Yeah, it needs some time to get used to it, but it's enjoyable to play overall. Yeah, like close to A, like B, but I put it on A as a good alternative. If you're a new player, you want to play on a melee weapon, and you don't like gloves, axes, these daggers, these spears, and you want to play on like a monk, it can be an option. Also, it's playable with Assassin Jacket, with Fiend Cowl, with Undead Cape. You can combine it with Mercenary Jacket, Undead Cape with Mercenary Jacket, Demon Cape even with Stun Run, and Stun Run enemy, activate Demon Cape into E-spell, into Poison, if you have a Poison, if you was not using Invisibility. Plenty of ways how to play. You will be able to clear mobs very fast, even high tier. You can move. The thing is about this weapon, you can move during your Q spell, and if it, let's say, a mob casting some kind of AoE ability, you can, like, run away from this AoE. You don't need to stay in one place. You have so much freedom. Cloth viable. You can play on a cloth, but it's gonna be only PvP build, like with Cleric Rope, with Mage Rope, with basically Suicide setup, where you dive an enemy on a hotspot with Invisibility Potion, let's say, and finishing him with one combination with Demon Cape. You stun run him, activate Demon Cape, he is stunned, then using your E-spell, 1 Q, and your enemy is dead if he was in the middle of the fight, in many scenarios. You can use the Suicide build, of course, but depends what kind of enemy you will face. It's gonna be a Gucci boy, you will deal lots of damage, but you will not finish him. It's a very good weapon. Ironclad, though, it's a knockback E-spell it has. You can troll around group mobs, but no, guys. I'm sorry, no. For solo open world, no. No and no. Okay. Fuck it. C tier. Because you still can do PvE pretty successfully with your Q and W. And once you're gonna get ganked, you can use your E-spell to knock back your enemies and just survive. Knock back, then use boots, Invisibility Potion, you're alive. It actually might be good. PvE and escape only. But PvP potential is around 0 if you do not play around group mobs. If you're an experienced player, you can make it work. Double-bladed was a toxic meta in Mist, and the reason why, like a short explanation. Because of Stalker Jacket and Kite potential. You was engaging enemy with Stun Run, with Stalker Jacket, activate defensives, running away with E-spell that has low mobility, waiting for your cooldowns, and repeat it again. The thing is, when you want to gank someone in open world, and you will not be able to abuse 8.3 items in open world, because if you will die to anyway sooner or later to a gank squad, and you just need to accept it as a fact. You will. You cannot play with insanely Gucci items in open world. 6.2, 6.3, mostly it's maximum that you're gonna see. So this is not enough to play in the same way like Mists. You cannot. As a solo, you cannot. You can use this weapon as a gathering weapon. You can use this weapon to gank gatherers solo still if you have decent AP, high specs. But for open world roaming, I still would put it in a B tier. I'll be honest, I would still put it in B tier, but only because of its price and because of Qs and Ws are good in PvE clearing speed. And you can gank people with this low, like gank low tier enemies. And you have a chance to escape. You use your E-spell, cut the distance between you and your enemy, running away with invisibility. It's still a pretty decent one, even though it's nerfed and you will not be able to perform the same playstyle like in Mists. It's a good weapon, but it's not A tier. It's not even close to A and S tier. No, it's not. Like your quarterstaff, I think, because of fight potential, is much better than B. The only downside of this quarterstaff is it will be hard to kill and gank gatherers. So if we are talking about ganking, like pure ganking, this would be better. 100% it would be better. But open world is about mixed type of environment, mixed type of content. So yeah, I would put it in a B tier. This one, this scythe with this aura that reduces damage can be toxic at some point in corrupted dungeons and even strong. But for 1v1 in open world, not good. You can make it work again if you're an experienced player, because you will have a stun run, you have Qs, you have an AP advantage, you can kite enemies, but it sucks. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it in D tier. Open world, specifically, D tier. I cannot see the way how it can be played in an efficient way on a daily basis and not for fun, not for YouTube clicks, not for YouTube purposes. I don't see the way how you can play it on daily basis and be very efficient. There are just much better options to play on. Close to, okay, let's close to C tier, maybe, but I'm gonna put it in D tier. Next one is Soul Scythe. Soul Scythe back in the days was one of the best one-shot combinations because its E-spell crowd control, now this whirlwind that you cast, is ignoring crowd control resistance. And people were using it in one-shot combos with Druid Rope, with Cleric Rope, and Demon Cape. So basically, you run on your enemy, stun run, activate Demon Cape, poison, you are throwing your E-spell, and your enemy is just dying. But the reason why it was working before, because the amount of health that we had before was lower. Everyone had less specs, and seeing enemy with 3k health was super rare occasion when you could see such player. Most of the people had 2.2k health, 2.3k health, and this damage from this Soul Scythe was enough to kill and one-shot an enemy. You still can, you know what, funny enough, I would put still it in a B tier. It's very dangerous weapon. Can clear mobs, it's got some kind of crowd control, damage, native damage from E-spell, you'll be surprised, but it's pretty decent. Okay, low B tier. I would put it in a low B tier, you know what? No, B tier, no. Let it be high C tier. I would put it in a high C tier. If it will be between B and C, it will be B- or C+. Yeah, for sure. Got lots of potential, can make kills, can escape also. If, let's say, gankers are following you, you are using this E-spell, knocking back them or slowing them, because if you're not hit and this enemy is going to be close to your E-spell, you're going to slow them and run away. Unique one, you probably never saw this weapon in open world, anywhere, yeah, but it can be playable, definitely. I forgot its name, this weapon. Basically, this E-spell on this quarterstaff gives you lots of armor, magic resistance, but reduce your heal. You can use it in some troll setups, in corrupted dungeons. Most of the people use it in small scale, large scale fights to reduce enemy heal, because also reduce Staff of Balance, yeah. So, Staff of Balance, that's the name of this weapon. But for open world purposes, the only thing that you will be able to do is to defend yourself with this E-spell, but that's gonna put you in combat, so it's not the best option. And the only thing that you will get from a regular quarterstaffs is good Qs and Ws. So it can be dangerous if, guys, if you in open world found your item power, you're on the same item power, this weapon, this guy on full health, with, let's say, demon helmet, demon cape, with stun run, oh man, it can hurt. I do remember I faced it a few times in open world, and it was very hard to kill him. Very hard. You need to be very careful with this weapon. But it's very unique, and do not recommend you to play it unless you want to have some fun and play on something cool. It's a low C tier. It's literally low C tier. Don't play it. Don't. I know you might have ideas. What about Stalker Jacket? Yeah, but you can combine it. But again, it's just bad. Also, heal that you receive will be nerfed. No, it will be... You will have a debuff on the healing received, so keep this in mind. Grail Seeker is interesting weapon. It's very interesting weapon. Probably you saw these videos of Only Reds, how he's playing Avalonian Roads, yeah? If you're a solo player and you're playing Avalonian Roads, if you're experienced enough, you can make it work to A, B tier, playing around mobs. But this tier list is not about Avalonian Roads and not about that environment, because Avalonian Roads also require its own tier list. It will be at some point similar to Open World, but at the same time it's completely different. This Grail Seeker allow you to play around Avalonian road mobs with mages that cast this explosion, and you can root in this explosion your enemies and kill players like that. In open world environment, on hotspots, no. It's guys, very bad. It will not fit. Solo player. It's very good in duos when you're playing in combination with Grail Seeker plus one-handed dagger. Grail Seeker and some kind of fire staff. It will be good. In reality, it's bad. You need mobs, you rely on mobs, and don't play it. New player, D tier, forget about this weapon. Don't even touch it if you're a solo player. Crystal Twin Blade Slayer, yeah? It's Twin Blade Slayer. What's the name of this new crystal quarterstaff? It was changed not long time ago, but price-wise, it is very expensive. It can do PvE. It's definitely a low C tier, without even any hesitation. S tier, of course, S tier. No. It was busted in the moment when they released it, but only because it was bugged, not because it was good. It was dealing bug damage, that's why people were wiping the whole Zergs and parties. In reality, it do not deal so much damage, then they fix it, and then people realize how bad this weapon is, they stopped using it, then they SBI buff it, but from what I know right now, it's in very bad spot. Definitely not a solo weapon. Like, even if it will be good, E-spell I mean, it's still gonna be far away from good solo weapon. Forget about it. Expensive, unreliable, people can kite you super easy. So yeah, I think they need to a bit rework E-spell. Okay, let's go to shape shifters. The problem with all shape shifters, it's a global problem, it's price. They're very expensive, guys. They're insanely expensive. And that's a huge problem. Insane problem. You still can play on them. Some of them might be cheaper than others, but price is a huge factor if you're gonna start playing on them. But let's talk about weapons that you can actually play in open world and talk about their PvE and PvP capabilities. In Mists, you know that Panther is number one weapon because of its mobility, built-in invisibility, kite potential, finisher, which is the most important. The E-spell, if you cast 3 times, it deals pure damage to your enemy and can finish enemies even they have Martlock cape or Undead cape. They do not care. You're gonna finish them. It's very strong. But in Mists, the classic meta right now, it's Armor of Veiler with helmets that is varied. It can be Purge helmet, Helmet of Veiler, or Fiend Cowl with Undead cape or Carrion cape, and healing boots or mana boots, depends on how you manage your energy. But probably heal boots, because when you're in form, you have a higher regeneration of your energy. So keep this in mind. You always need to switch to balance it out. It's for Mists. But for open world, this type of playstyle will not work. With Armor of Veiler, in most of the cases, you need to rely mostly on Assassin Jacket. Not even Mercenary. Even though you can play with Mercenary, but there is not enough spells, synergies that you can use with Mercenary Jacket to heal up super fast. There is none. So if it's gonna be purged, you're gonna be purged super fast, and it's gonna be only helpful in PvE. If you're using cheap, let's say, Panther build with Mercenary Jacket, you can use it in low tier, tier 6, maybe tier 7, some locations, and rely in terms of survivability only on invisibility potion on all items that I mentioned at the beginning of this stream video, if you're gonna watch it on YouTube. So mostly people will play it with Assassin Jacket. With Assassin Jacket, surprisingly enough, you will have decent mobility. You will. Like Assassin Jacket building invisibility from this Panther gonna be decent. You'll be able to even kill people, hunt people down, but price, man. Price is bad. Also, very important, the all efficiency, your clear speed, and in general PvE efficiency, even PvP efficiency, will double once you're gonna open this AoE Q spell, Splash, that reduce enemy resistance. It's such a good ability. Oh my god, it's such a nice spell. Oof. Once you're gonna open it, you're gonna clear everything super easy. No matter what kind of shapeshifter you're gonna take, your PvE experience will gonna be smooth. So Panther, we're gonna put, guys, on a B tier. It's a B tier. Rolling price is the same as Bear Paws and Death Givers. Yeah, it's very expensive. It's so expensive. New player, don't play on them. Don't. Especially in full loot zones with low experience. Do not recommend. In general, I mentioned this. This one, let's talk about a bad one in PvE. Not bad one in PvE, but that will not fit you in most of the cases. This one and Shapeshifter for solo open world, D tier. This one, D tier. This one, close to low C tier. Okay, let's talk about these two. Giant that you transform into this Giant Rock and Ant. Ant will be probably better in PvE once you're gonna combine it with some kind of auto attack passive on W. You will be able to do PvE, etc. plus your Qs, Ws, but you're gonna be useless. Everyone will be able to catch you up and kill you and get your expensive weapon, and you're gonna lose all motivation to play the game. Don't play on these two weapons in open world as a solo player. Just don't. Any weapon from this list will be able to easily kite you out, kill you, punish any newbie 2 ganker, so even newbie ganker can kill you on low health. You will not be able to do anything, and you will rely only on invis from your kit, like invisibility potion, undead capes, etc. The reason why I put this on C tier, also very expensive, is because on on maximum shapeshift stacks, when you transform into this Phoenix, you will get a bonus movement speed, and it's huge. It's actually decent movement speed buff, and you can use it in your advantage to run away, let's say. Yeah, I'll catch up with players. It got burst damage on E-spell, so you can use it in many scenarios in 1v1. If you're an experienced player and you know how to play the game, you can transform it in open world even to a B tier. You can, but you will not. It's a C tier. The next shapeshifter weapon that I would put also in a B tier will be Bear. Yeah, I know you might not agree with me, but I think it's even stronger at some point than this Panther with invisibility, or on the same level, because they have different toolkits. The thing is, this Bear got mobility also when you transform into this Bear, and mobility is always nice to have in open world. Also, you have crowd control, like a fear that allow you, and stun that allow you to survive and win 1v1 fights. So it's also very expensive, do not recommend you, but it can be playable. On a B tier, definitely. With the human abilities, form that you have, with the stun, fear, it's very decent. And you can actually kill many setups in this SAB tier. You can. Even you'll be able to kill this Panther, actually. Oh, sorry, not Panther, this Spear with this Bear, to be fair. Next one is a Werewolf. Werewolf is insanely strong, even after nerfs, guys. Werewolf is insanely strong. Werewolves, some people were saying, oh, it's S tier 100%. No, even after nerfs, it's still strong. It's one of the best on Avalonian roads. Even in duos, like with a healer after nerfs, very strong. But solo, there is one small problem. Small one. Easy to kite in 1v1, easy to kill in 1v1, thanks to kite again, and expensive. Yes, your PvE experience gonna be, guys, on SS++++ tier. It's very good in clearing these camps. Bosses, everything, man, it's incredible. But overall efficiency, BD tier, it's B tier. I'm sorry, I cannot put it higher because of price and because it's super easy to kill it and kite it. Man, 2 newbie Bear Paws gonna evaporate this Werewolf. When other weapons have a huge chance to escape, or maybe kill one and then escape. Depends on what kind of like tier you play. Again, 2 newbie gankers will be able to kite it out and kill it. No. I'm sorry, no. Kite is the main enemy of this Werewolf. In small scale, you do not care about it much because, again, it's a completely different environment, yeah? When you play in a group. So, no. B tier, B low tier, I would say. be low tier on a werewolf. And only because of PvE capabilities. Hellfire Staff, Imp. Imp also got one of the best clear speed capabilities among all weapons that exist in the game. One of the best. Very cool in the clearing. Also close to S+++ tier, especially if you are not farming like super tanky mobs. Like mobs tier 8, tier 7, it can clear like this. Very good, very nice. But price and survivability, if you do not rely on assassin jackets, invisibility potions, around 0. I would even put it, yeah, low B tier. I just cannot. If you aim only for PvE, let's say, yeah, and you don't care about price, for you, personally, it might be S tier. It might. But if you're a new player, don't play. Don't. Nature Staffs. I gotta tell you right now, Nature Staffs in open world PvP suck. They can't defend themselves. They can. Versus solo gankers. Solo same IP enemies, and you will be able to escape even. But when it comes to ganking someone, if you want to kill someone, you will not be able to. Unless it's a guy that will decide to fight you till the end and he will be super greedy. Like Blind Staff, this one, is actually strong in Corrupt Dungeons, in 1v1. It's actually decent, strong. But Corrupt Dungeons is not open world environment. Keep this in mind. So talking about all Nature Staffs, they're all good in PvE. They're incredible in PvE. All of them. Some of them better, some of them worse. Like one-handed Nature Staff, it's probably the best in PvE. In open world, because it got self-heal, self-damage. So damage with your Qs you'll be able to deal. Damage from your E-spell will scale from your Q's damage ability that you land on your enemy. And you also will root them that will allow you to kite them even more. So I would put them all Nature Staffs, like not all, this one, this one, this one, and this one, not even on low B tier, and only because of their PvE capabilities. Only because PvE and survivability at some point. This one, C tier somewhere, because of price and how unique they are. There is no sense to take this expensive weapon when you can take the cheap druidic staffs like this one. So keep this in mind. What builds you should play on? You either play with, again, Assassin Jacket for survivability, Mercenary Jacket, or Cleric Robe even. Even with Cleric Robe, man, you can easily play in open world. Natures can afford this because, like I'll give you an example of a Nature Staff that I was not able to gank. It was a Nature Staff with Royal Sandals. It was a Nature Staff with Cleric Robe and Guardian Helmet. Or even Knockback Helmet. Once they are getting ganked, they are using defensives on E-Spell or Cleric Robe, using Royal Sandals and just whoop, running away. You cannot purge them. And on distance, they use Invisibility Potion, they survive. Or they combine Guardian Helmet with Invisibility Potion, they mount up and survive. You don't even need to use Minor Boots. Some people use Minor Boots, but I think it's overkill. Like regular run with something that makes sure you will not be purged, even Brazilian Cape will be enough. So if you want to do PvE and just farm mobs with a cheap setup, that's why I always suggest Nature. It's a cheap, classic option that you can use in this environment, and even if you will die, who cares? Your build costs 50k of silver. Even if you will use like Assassin Jacket or Cleric Robe, one Invisibility Potion, any shoes you want, any helmet with Knockback or Guardian, it doesn't matter. Like, you can use even Knockback actually to knock back your ganker, then use your boots and Invisibility Potion. And you're good. Or Royal Sandals if you don't want to be purchased at all, but it's a bit more expensive. It will increase your price of your gear. And since you're gonna use cheap setup on a Nature, like 5.1, let's say even, yeah? And we'll go inside of the black zone, this portal. Portal price is going to be so low, you will get this money in 3, 4, 5 minutes of farming like first tier 5, tier 6 spots in open world. And very important tip, guys, don't be greedy. If you're using, let's say, a set that costs 100k and you farmed 300k, go back and stash it. There is no reason to accumulate even more loot. Hell, even in some scenarios, once you use 100k build, you got 150k build, go and stash. It's better to play like that. Yeah, it's a pussy gameplay, it's a safe one, But that's how you accumulate your first silver, your first money. That's about nature staffs. Blight staff again is very nice. I like it because when you cast this e-spell, it gives you mobility. So you can combine your royal sandals if you are getting ganked with Blight staff e-spell, whoop, and zoom out from your enemy, then use an invisibility potion, mount up, and you're good. Also might be a good escape tool. One-hand nature and like a super cheap setup, I do enjoy it. Fire staffs. This is a bit more interesting. Are very strong in lots of content. Small scale, ZVZ, ganking squads, corrupted dungeons. But when it comes to solo gameplay, it's tricky. Because either you're gonna play super cheap setup that will allow you to clear mobs super fast, especially guys, if you're gonna use on one-handed fire staffs AoE Q spell, some kind of AoE W that give you movement speed, but you will cast it on mobs. And on one-handed fire, let's say talk about one-handed fire staff. And I'm gonna put it on, I'll be honest, on B tier as a weapon. I would put it on a low B tier, something like that, or mid B tier. It will be right here. You take 4.1, 5.0, Suicide setup with even with Assassin Jacket, still gonna deal insane amount of damage. Or even with Cleric, with one invisibility potion. You'll be able to clear everything you see. Amount of damage that you will have is just insane. It's just insane. But when it comes to PvP, you need to choose. The thing is, when you want to do PvE, you need to use AoE Q spell. You need to use this run W. You will use your one-handed fire staff E spell to clear mobs. And once that you're gonna find, let's say, battle axe or any other weapons from this tier list, to kill them, to fight versus them, you need to change your spells on another Q, on another W sometimes. And you might not have this time. And the thing is, when you, let's say, okay, but what if I'm gonna play immediately with PvP spells? You can, but then your clear speed gonna be drastically lower, and your mana consumption gonna be much higher. So you need to choose in how you should play on this fire staff. For a newbie player, like that just logged in and want to play on the fire staff, he don't even need to bother about PvP. He take PvE spells and farm it. But for PvP, it's a bit different. We are talking about low specs, yeah? You need to choose. But on higher specs, once you're gonna get 100 specs on fire staff, once you're gonna get decent experience of the game, and you will play then. You still can play with Assassin Jacket, by the way, or in open world, and on one-hand fire stuff. You might think it's weird, but actually it's okay. It's cool. With some kind of offhand on cooldowns, if you're playing with Q that's non-target, yeah, third Q spell, with some kind of Fiend Cowl even, Royal Heavy Boots, and gank people. Even if you play in PvP setup on high specs, you will be able to clear mobs. It's very similar at some point to gloves, at some point to gloves. When with higher specs, you can play with PvP set of spells and be efficient, but it's still gonna be very niche weapon. But anyway, I put it on a B tier, because clear speed on low specs is insanely good. These two fire staffs with Great Fire and this Sphere I will put on C tier because of E-spells. This E-spells is good in PvE. This weapon is a purely PvE weapon with this low cooldown E ability that deal AoE damage. Perfect. But in PvP, let's be honest, in open world environment, might be usable in very rare scenarios. The same applies to this Sphere E-spell. It's mostly for small scale fights. Is good. In PvE and in PvP 1v1, so-so. It's not the best. But PvE experience will be decent. Wildfire got the same playstyle with Q's set of Qs and Ws that I mentioned before. And it's pretty cheap for an artifact weapon, yeah? For not a regular one. Wildfire is a cheesy fire staff that can kill lots of high tier enemies thanks to E-spell. Can be used also in the same way in the suicide build in Corrupt Dungeons. And by the way, Corrupt Dungeons, I'll mention it briefly. It's meta, by the way, in Corrupt Dungeons, this one-hand fire staff, because you don't need to bother about PvE at all, almost, yeah, and you can immediately play with PvP spells. And if your enemy will press defensive incorrectly, or gonna be greedy, he's gonna die. The same apply to this one. But the problem with this Wildfire staff, it cannot kite on range enemies in open world like one-handed fire can. One-handed fire staff E-spell, you can cast it on E and immediately cancel it, and you will land insane amount of damage for not a fully charged ability. It's huge, and you win a trade immediately. The problem will be to catch up with enemies, but if you was listening to what I was saying about the build on high specs, you can use heavy royal boots to compensate your mobility, offhand on cooldown reduction and movement speed W on yourself, and you'll be able to catch up with almost everyone. Even, guys, you'll be surprised, but with this setup, you can catch up with Deathgiver's Battle Bracers even, or one-handed fire staff, one-handed spear, sorry. Wildfire do not have this option, and he must go in a face-to-face trade with enemy and land E-spell. And it is hard, because it got cast time, it got animation, and it's super easy to miss. If your enemy especially will move from side to side. But once you're gonna hit, it almost guarantee you a kill, or guarantee you a scenario where you're winning a trade. It's just crazy. True damage was always OP in Albion. I don't know why it still exists. True damage, I mean, that cannot be blocked by anything. Dot true damage. It's crazy. The deal damage based on maximum health of your enemy. So higher tier, higher health your enemy has, more damage it's gonna deal. Even with 4.0, it's gonna deal insane amount of damage. I think it's broken, and SBI need to remove this mechanic from the game, but it's their game. Let them do what they want. If I would choose between one-handed fire staff and wildfire, I would prefer one-handed fire staff because it's much more reliable weapon. But if you want to play on a suicide, cleric build, soldier boots, and some kind of hunter hood, gigapods, diving on enemies and force them to fight, you'll have a higher chance to kill them on wildfire. If they're gonna be greedy and much higher IP than you are, it will be wildfire. Brimstone staff. What can I say about this meteor weapon? It's a easy, small scale weapon that, or you maybe saw some videos on YouTube where people playing solo on Ox, they're getting dismounted by a group of gankers or actors, and then he clapped them all with one E-spell because of AoE escalation mechanic that we have. More enemies hit you, and if you are alone, you get bonus damage on your abilities. It's by the way about this mechanic. Do we need to even record a video where I explain all mechanics that we have in Albion? You actually gave me an idea, guys. Maybe I should make a video like an explanation. What is diminishing return? How does it work? How it affects different stats? What is AoE escalation? Because we do have this information in on a wiki, but let's be honest, majority of players are not even aware of such mechanics and how do they work. Like armor, like penetration that we have on weapons, how does it work? Because people think that it reduces directly armor, which is not the case. So type in comment section below, do you like this idea or not, to make a separate video about this topic. So Brimstone Staff. Brimstone Staff solo, short answer, no, for obvious reasons. To make it work, you either need Schooler Rope to cast this meteor so people will not run away from this range, or using a Morgana Cape. And if you use these pieces of gear, it means that you are useless in solo environment, you are very vulnerable, you're gonna be ganked, killed. PvE, Qs, Ws you can use, but I don't recommend. It's a low C tier, maybe in D tier, like D tier. Why am I low C? D tier, don't play it as a solo. This one is a bit tricky because it can be played as a solo weapon. In Mists, you also might see some videos having fun trolling with this weapon and actually making kills with Fellscale Rope, with Mistwalker Hoods, but it's Mist environment, where you don't need, in many scenarios, to participate in PvP, being on spot and deal with PvE. And if you're gonna play in open world, you need to deal with PvE. You're gonna clear mobs super fast. You will. But to make it work, you need to play with Morgana Cape, to cast it fast. Even if you will play, let's say, with Assassin Jackets, you need something on cast speed to cast this E-spell, because even this E-spell will hit a bit your enemy. If you can combine it, actually, Assassin Jacket, a Royal Helmet, a Morgana Cape, you can make lots of kills with this combo. Very close in terms of execution combo like we have on Hellfire Hands. The very similar one is on this one with this Fire Tornado. But it is so niche, requires so much specs, because on low specs you will not be able to do it. You're gonna die. You're gonna die super fast, and yeah, you're gonna only feed. So if you're very experienced and you want to have fun on some kind of cool setup and you have specs, knowledge, yeah, why not? Play this weapon, Morgana Cape, Royal Helmet, Assassin Jacket with Invisibility Potion, try to gank people, perform this combo and make few kills. Otherwise, no, it's a D-tier weapon. D-tier weapon, forget about it. But you might see this weapon, by the way, in duo one-shot setups with Grail Seeker, with this Incubus Mace, with one-handed Mace. There are plenty of combinations with this Fire Staff that can evaporate enemy like in few seconds. Man, I remember when we were playing in a group with Coco, we were playing Gucci setups like 8.1, 8.2, and half of our team were dying in Gucci items to 4.2 guys that were using this combo. 4.2. Like a health. And they cannot move because they are crowd controlled. Easy. Yeah, in open world it's one of the best. It's a very cool combo. The next one, this one, Avalonian Fire Staff, one of my favorites visually. The way how it's efficient in small scale PvP. You can even use it in fun builds in corrupted dungeons and even in Mist at some point. But it has low efficiency as a solo weapon. Just low. You can make it work. Again, with experience, mostly answer will be no. It's a small scale, don't play it solo. PvE also very enjoyable. PvE in small scale, small group PvE, group PvP is good. Solo, questionable. If I would have specs, I would probably play on it. For fun. For a few streams to record a video. But you need to play via full kite. With this. Low tier, no. Expensive, yes, so C tier on the level of these weapons. They can do PvE. PvE is very enjoyable with this weapon. Very enjoyable. But don't play in it. In general, guys, all these tier lists that you see, everything that is C tier, I strongly do not recommend lower. C, D tier, strongly do not recommend to play in it, but with few buts that I mentioned before when we were talking about specific weapons, mostly playable is SAB tier. That's what you need to focus on if you want to choose one of the weapons you want to play. Holy Staffs, guys. Let's do it right now. Are we good? We can move? Do you need explanation why? You can do PvE. You can. But it's gonna be so obnoxious and annoying. Actually, I feel bad that nature are so good in PvE and this one suck. Yeah, you will have self-heal. You will have lots of survivability. Boss, guys, if there will be in tier 6 quality location, boss layer, or 8.4 dungeon boss that will be impossible, even hard to kill with 8.4 items, 4.0 Holy Staff will be able to kill it, almost without any specs. Versus bosses, hard bosses, it's incredible weapon. You know what? I would even at some point recommend you, if you're playing on a PvP build that's bad in PvE, take as a swap weapon, if you're playing in high tier locations, one healing staff. It might be nature, it might be holy. And you're gonna kill a boss like one-handed holy. Super easy. It will take long time via kite, but you will be able to kill it without losing almost any health. So yeah, that's holy staffs. Forget about it. Not solo. There are some exceptions though. If again, open world. If it's a corrupted dungeon, you can use this one. This weapon, good example, you can check Momo Moni stream on Twitch, where she plays on this holy staff, non-stop in corrupted dungeons, and have pretty decent win rate. But it's different environment, so keep this in mind. In open world, definitely no. You'll be surprised, but Arcanes is one of my favorite weapons when we talk about PvE. Without even taking account what kind of E-spell they do have. It doesn't matter. Q-spell, W, auto-attack passive. Oh man, it feels so satisfying. Especially if you combine it with Mercenary Jacket. Oof, you can even find Avalonian wrote huge, like, hard camps, solo camps, hard camps, even low tier items on Arcane stuff. It is so good. It is so nice. But when it comes to PvP and roaming, that's what kind of problem we have. You can use Arcane Staff, one-hand Arcane Staff, which work in corrupt dungeons with high, like, pretty decent win rate. Because it's cheap on market, cheap to craft, easy to make, very efficient, lots of damage, but it's just specifically for certain content, like corrupt dungeons, small scale PvP, people will use it, which work, like a semi-support, semi-damage dealing weapon, mostly support, ZVZ weapon Locus, ZVZ weapon, large scale, small scale, even song, time freeze, very good ability on E-spell that allow you to freeze time and run away from enemies. It's this one, it's enigmatic, sorry. So, let's start. The best fame farm. There is no best. Now, best fame farm, you will not be available to you, Einen, because it's gatekept by guilds in a world boss locations. You don't need to worry about that. Open world, black zone, or mists, roaming mobs, and nightfall abbey dungeons only. Choose between them. Okay, one-handed arcane. One-handed arcane, like with Witchwork altogether, they are very good. Not very. They're playable in corrupted dungeons, but in open world, all they can do PvE mostly. Yeah, PvE. You understood. They're all good, playable, nice. PvP, they can kill. They can hunt players down. They can gank. They can protect themselves because of the e-spells. Either one-handed arcane with purge and silence at the same time, or Witchwork with decent damage and black hole ability that you can also use in your advantage if you want to play around mobs, to be fair. If you're experienced enough, you can do it. If you want to play on arcane for PvE purposes, easy. Mercenary Jacket, Guardian Helmet, Brazilian Cape, Invisibility Potion, go. Just Assassin Jacket, also will be fine. But Mercenary, you will enjoy to play with Mercenary. Trust me, you will enjoy. Offhand, mostly you use Torch. It's a cheap option with attack speed bonus, small one for smoother animations of auto attacks and lower cooldowns, or Mist Collar even. Maybe in some scenarios, Mist Collar will be even better. Or even Taproot for more health pool. If you are using Undead Cape, to make sure that your Undead Cape will activate on much more safer health amount, so you would escape. It also might be a good option. So, Arcane, these two Arcanes, I would put in a low B tier. Yeah, these Arcanes I would put on B tier. I would. Easy. The thing is, you will not be able probably to kill most of enemies if they will not be willing to fight you. That's a problem. And to catch enemies, you need to sacrifice something. You either, most of the cases, or to catch enemies, you need to play with heavy royal boots with this royal march. You will be able to catch up, but then you will suffer when you will try to avoid gankers. Because gankers will not fucking wait until you will cast these boots and allow you to run away. They will immediately purge you, they will knock back you, and you are dead. So if you want to risk, you can play with these boots. Regular run, in most of the cases, will not be enough to catch up with majority of these weapons that you see in the list. So you need to make a hard decision what you're gonna do on a high AP. On low AP, do not even bother. PvP is not your priority number one. You need to only kill mobs. And with these purposes, these two weapons feels great. They do. They are super cheap. Your gear setup might cost 60k, 70k, and you'll get this money super fast. Rely on one invisibility potion to run away, other save options that I was mentioning at the start of this tier list, and you'll be good. Helmet, by the way, what helmet you can use in open world? Cheap Hunter Hood, if someone will decide to fight you 1v1. Cultist Cowl might work, but it's more expensive. Even, Mage Cowl with knockback will fit. You might think, okay, and also Fiend Cowl. You might think, okay, why do I need Fiend Cowl if I have, let's say, I'm playing on one-hand Arcane and I already have a Purge? Yeah, but having two Purges is always nice. You can Purge, let's say, defensives and then boots. Or maybe you will use this E-spell for Interrupt and not for a Purge, because, again, it's silencing enemies and can interrupt many spells. So, keep this in mind. In some scenarios, again. Like, it's not the actual interrupt, it's silence that can interrupt some spells. That's channeling. Just saying. This one, Time Freeze, yeah? It's Time Freeze Arcane. Time Freeze Arcane, it's incredible PvE weapon. It's two-handed, so auto attacks gonna be clanky as hell. They will. I don't know why SBI make all Arcanes horrible two-handed when it comes to auto attacks. One-handed feels awesome. The only exception, only Evensong, it's only two-handed, but animations are awesome. But for some reason, this one and Astral Staff, and we're gonna mention also later, are bad. With this Time Freeze, man, your survivability gonna be on such a high rate, it's crazy. Someone is ganking you, E-spell, freeze, and move on foot. And good luck this guy to catch you. Even if it will be gank squad, like gank squad, like 2-3 guys that are ganking on you, they are nearby. You can freeze some of them, blink out with your W, use boots, invisibility, run away. Your chances on survivability go much higher if you compare to these two weapons. Keep this in mind. Also B tier. When it comes to this enigmatic stuff, C tier, E-Spell is useless for solo play. Small scale, incredible. Support weapon with shields, but then you're gonna play with shields on Qs, support Ws. But for solo, no, forget about this. Don't play. And I see D tier. Okay, C low tier because of Qs and Ws that you might have, and you can kill mobs pretty fast. But it's bad. Another weapon that might be good for survivability and even kite in 1v1, it's E-Spell that give you this line, cast a line on the ground, that give you movement speed and auto attack speed, if I'm not mistaken, and movement speed, and slow enemies if they step on it. It's very niche. I would not put this in a B tier, even a high C tier. I would put it in a high C tier. But you know what? No, a low B tier. Let it be low B tier. It can farm mobs, it can escape, you can slow enemies, and if your purpose is PvE and sometimes PvP versus enemies that want to fight you, it might work. You know what? Funny enough, this weapon has very close mobility-wise, in terms of mobility, if you're gonna use also Royal Heavy Boots, close to Battle Bracers. I'm not even joking. At some point, with Royal Heavy Boots. That will be a window where definitely you will be able to catch up with this weapon. But yeah, this one is defensive, this one movement speed. But I don't recommend you to play it. It's boring. I don't know. I don't like this play style. Like, I want to place it on C tier. I really want to place it on C tier, but let it be low B tier. This one is a ZVZ Locus D tier. Only PvE. E-Spell is useless. It's a defensive E-Spell in a ZVZ squads. Yeah, it's a very good weapon. In reality, for solo, completely bad. It's just bad. Even Song, one of my favorite arcane staffs because it's a two-handed with good native stats, with good native damage of your Qs, Ws, auto attacks, animations are awesome. E-Spell is a debuff, a good in small scale. I'm not sure about DVZ. In small scale, I would definitely take in my party one Even Song. That's for sure. But like a semi-support, if we already have everything we need in our party, I might take it. But for solo, it's bad. Realistically, you saw me playing it maybe in corrupted dungeons, in open world from time to time, in very rare cases. But let's be honest, it's bad. For solo, it's a C tier. Even though I like it, and I like it more than any other of these arcane staffs, I'll put it on C tier. And it's my favorite. No, just don't play in it. Solo, no, just don't. And this Astral staff. Very expensive B low tier. You saw highlights of almost the last video on my channel when we were playing solo on this arcane and the small scale. Solo you can play on a troll setups only. Okay, yo, what do you mean B tier? What am I doing? What am I doing with this B tier? C tier. I'm sorry. If it would not be expensive, I would put it in B tier. I put it in high C tier. Why high C tier? Because clear speed. Guys, if you ever play Dota and you know this character hero, Crystal Maiden, this is a Crystal Maiden ultimate. Or Mirana Starfall, but non-stop Starfall. It's so good. Man, I was face tanking and clearing tier 8 camps without even bothering. Like I was, mobs are dead. I was using, of course, cultist row build with heavy royal boots. I had mobility, I had damage, but I was so squishy. It was a glass cannon build. I had so much fun, lost insane amount of silver. Don't even ask me how much, but it was worth it. Definitely do not recommend you to play on this weapon, but it's insanely fun. I love it. It's one of my favorites. Enjoy it. But it's solo, no. Frost staffs are so bad, so horrible. Unplayable, almost unplayable in PvE when you are solo. They're bad. If you was playing on a Frost staff, you know what kind of a pain is to play on a Frost staff and killing mobs. So I would never recommend the new players to play on a Frost staff as their first weapon because they require insane amount of specs and at least basic knowledge of the game to be good. But, so if we talk about PvE, all these Frost staffs will be on low C tier. If we will talk about only PvE. But since we are talking about PvP environment, solo PvE, PvP, mixed one in black zone, even red zone, you can put some of them on B tier, maybe on even A. Let me explain. One-handed Frost staff will be in A tier if you're having 100 plus specs, you have maxed out specs, you have decent knowledge of the game, you know how to play Albion, you are not a new player, oh, you're willing to learn, yeah? Expect to see Frost Staff in the A tier. The same applies to this one, Avalonian, A tier. Okay, to be fair, the only exceptions where PvE might be more at some point in okayish is a Great Frost. I do agree with this spammable E-spell ability. Yeah, I do agree with this great one, two-handed. It's a PvE only. But PvP, again, in open world, I would put it in the B tier right now. And let's talk about this one. So, One-Handed Frost, Avalonian Frost, with high specs, with high knowledge of the game, would be insanely strong, obnoxious to kill, and they have insane kill potential, gank potential in open world, hunting players. The same like in Mists. But you need to know more than, I would say, even basics. So it's definitely not a new player. You need to have a decent experience, I would say. Yeah, I would say decent experience to make it playable. And anyway, if you've never played on Frost Staff, you need to practice a bit for 1 week or a few days to get used to this weapon and play style. It got insane mobility, catch potential, kite potential, and it's very hard to kill, very hard to catch. Mostly people play with us. You can play it with Assassin Jacket, with Avalonian Beam Helmet and Undead Cape on the One-Handed Frost or Limhurst Cape, offhand on Mist Collar and Boots, Mana or Heal. Once you're gonna get to high specs and you have this experience, PvE would not be so obnoxious and annoying. It's still gonna be tough, don't get me wrong. Even on maximum specs, it's gonna be annoying to do PvE, sorry. But it will be much easier if you compare it to early stage of progression. So on early stage of progression, you're gonna suffer. Keep this in mind. But if you overcome all this painful experience, you can get this weapon to A tier. That's why I put it on A tier. Keep this in mind. B, why I put Great Frost with this double E-spell is because it's two-handed. That's the only reason. And E-spell is not crowd control, it's a pure damage. So many weapons that have mobility can easily run away from you, and you will not also have the maximum movement speed and escape potential like this too. It was good in Corrupted Dungeons, I know. You can clear spots, do PvE in a more enjoyable experience you will have in PvE compared to other Frosts. But still B tier. Like mid B tier Great Frost. PvE is good, PvP is questionable, and yeah, I hope it makes sense. Crystal Arcane, after few buffs that it had, I saw its efficiency and I was surprised how good it is in arena, in small scale some fights, but very unreliable. Solo definitely D tier. Okay, C tier, because it's still a Frost. Yes, your E-spell, you need to channel it, and that's a problem. It deals lots of damage, but easy to avoid in many scenarios. Unreliable, close to D tier, actually. For solo gameplay, close to D tier. No, D tier. Let's not. D tier, D tier. Oh, no, it's not. It's a glacial stuff. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I want to apologize. I was talking about this weapon. This is a crystal one. This one is another. It's an icicle. It's an Icicle Frost, and this Icicle Frost used in mostly ZVZ as a support weapon. Also D tier though, nothing has changed. It's still D, but to make sure, yeah, like I just mixed pictures. I'm sorry, I'm tired already. I'm super tired. Oh, Glacial, it's a Glacial. Oh my god, 4 hours, guys. 4 hours of stream. Okay, never mind. Let's make, so it will be easier. Glacial, Icicle, Crystal Arcane, Crystal Frost. It's bad. Don't play on them. They are horrible for solo. It doesn't matter. Even if I mix the names. I want to apologize. It is a long stream when I talk non-stop. Permafrost, it's a low C tier. You know why? Because it has some kind of reliable, semi-reliable E-spell damage ability, even with delay. But anyway, it's a stun. It's a low C tier that you can play on. But I cannot imagine anyone playing in open world, I'll be honest, with this weapon as a solo. Because you need to either go Schooler Rope Q2, which is dumb in open world, I'll be honest, as a solo. So you need to play with Kite Q, with Assassin Jacket maybe, yeah. Assassin Jacket, the similar playstyle like this one, but since it is two-handed, you will have less mobility, it might not work. Easy to dodge. But PvE can be okay-ish. If it's low tier mobs, it will not be a pain like with One-Handed Frost, let's say. Close to D tier, I'll be honest. It's a good weapon in small scale, one more time. On Avalonian roads, in small scale groups, in ZVZ, incredible weapon. But not for solo, guys. In open world or Black Zone. Curses. the last weapon line that left to review. Very similar to one-handed fire staff that we were mentioning before in terms of what kind of spells you need to take before you're gonna go on spot. Because if you're gonna take on any curse staff AoE Q spell, this beam on W, man, you're gonna clear mobs super fast. It doesn't matter what kind of curse staff you're gonna take. It's gonna be decent. It's gonna be good. But the problem is, what if gonna be PvP? You might not have time again to switch your spells. You might be locked in combat. Some people might run into this AoE Q spell, like on nature staffs, leave you without mount and you need to run. So you will be forced at some point play with not AoE Q spell, but with a single Q, which is bad. Which is bad. That's why majority of these weapons are playable mostly for in PvP aspect of Black Zone when you want to hunt players down or want to fight people, but not for leveling itself. If you want to level up, of course you can take cheap setup, and by the way, this will feed, but it's expensive. It's very expensive. You can take Demonic with Fear. You can take Curse Skull. It's very good in PvE. Something with AoE damage. Even with two-handed Curse Staff to cast this Q in an area to deal more damage. You can use it. Yeah, for sure. But once you're gonna get to tier 6, 6.1, 6.2 even, if you want to fight people, you need to change your QWs. You either need to take Roots on W or Laser and then fight people. So you cannot combine two things at the same time. Unless there is one exception, if you're gonna play on this one, Avalonian, or this one, oh, no, not even this one, Avalonian, because this E-spell that you have on this weapon deal pretty decent amount of damage to mobs and heal you up. Yes, it was nerfed recently, and heal you up if you, let's say, cast it on yourself and you have leather jacket, it will provide some heal. So yeah, on a cloth it will deal damage if you will be in cloth, but playing in cloth in open world is it's a suicide. If you're playing with tanky build on a curse staff, you either play with Demon Boots, tanky like Guardian Armor, or Hellion Jacket, even some people still use it, Martlock Cape, and count on enemy greed that they're gonna trade with you, and then you're gonna kill them with Q stacks that poison basically, or they will run away. So it's very bad. In general, curses are bad for PvP experience. I would not recommend you. But once we're gonna talk about PvP, only, you have few options. Let me introduce you these two OP curse staffs that everyone is using. So first of all, we're gonna point this as a C tier. I know that PvE is very enjoyable on this Avalonian. I know it's a meta. I know that you saw this weapon, everyone is recommending you. But for open world solo gameplay, playing with this weapon is not the best idea. First of all, price. Second of all, easy to avoid, and you need to count on Morons. They're gonna fight you if you're gonna be in a tanky build. And if you're not playing on tanky build, you are useless, basically. That's why I put it in C tier. But when we're gonna talk about these two weapons, yes, it's a red weapons. It's weapons strictly created to kill and hunt people in open world. First, classic, one-handed curse and purge curse. Mostly you play with one-handed curse in a classic suicide build with a cleric robe, with soldier boots or royal sandals or royal heavy boots. But the most common is soldier boots. Cheap, simple, offhand on damage, cape or Carrioncaller cape for fast Q stacks with laser on W or roots, depend on your enemy. But mostly people play with laser. And helmet can be different. You can use purge. You can use Cultist Cowl, you can use laser, you can use cheap Hunter Hoods for defensives. And with this cheap setup, you roam around the spots, you heal someone on the spot, you dismount, you use your soldier boots, you use invisibility potion, run and ratting people. It's good. It's working in Mist, it's working in open world. Some people actually use it also with Guardian Armor to rat people, to make sure that they will not go in invisibility, yeah? You can also play it like that. So yeah, one-hand curse is a suicide basically, or 1v1 weapon that can deal insane amount of damage with minimum efforts. But there is another one. At some point will be even more reliable if you're playing on not a suicide cheap builds, but on a high tier, 6.2 let's say, 6.3, is because this weapon got purge built into E-spell. So you can play with royal heavy boots, with laser or roots, playing like a cultist cowl you don't even need for trading if people will decide to trade you in 1v1 to win this trade. You can play with various of armor pieces, and you have perch. You can perch undead capes. You can perch invisibility assassin jackets, because this perch got huge AoE and a bit broken AoE, to be fair. Even if you will stay a bit far away from this circle, it still can hit you because of being different. Well, that's not a bug, but yeah, it's desync. It got insane AoE. You can remove everything, any invisibility. Because in most of the cases, like for burst damage, E-spell is good, but once it explodes, your enemy lose all your Q stacks. In this one, you just easily can win a trade with simple Qs, especially when you have specs. But these two weapons will work only, and we're gonna be in B tier, only if you already have specs on your cursed staffs. On low specs with no IP, the only one who will be able to kill other noobs like you in 4.0, but why you need to even bother killing these newbies like that are also trying to get this experience if you will not get anything from them? Better to focus on establishing your economy, getting more specs, and only after that you can invest your combat thing credits or specs into this weapon. Fear. Curse was meta in the first days of Mists. Right now it's not. It was nerfed what was nerfed. It's a bit easier to do PvE, especially if you're gonna use AoE Q spell, yeah? PvE experience will be smooth as butter, but not the strongest in 1v1. It struggled with mobility. Well, I mentioned all these curses. They're mostly for small-scale PvP. This one for ZVZ. This one small-scale in corrupted dungeons. Might work in some scenarios in Mists. This one corrupted dungeons, small-scale. This one small-scale as a semi-support curse weapon with crowd control. Solo, not anymore. Just not anymore. There are better options. One-hand curse or this with purge. We'll have much more efficiency in 1v1 fight. We're gonna put this all curses. I'll be honest. This one may be on C tier. The rest for solo open world, I'm gonna do like this. I'm sorry, curse cool. Solo is D tier. You can be tanky. Okay, let me tell you a few things about this curse cool. It's a very dangerous weapon to fight, but no one's gonna fight you. Like, it's like you will not be able to make kills unless enemy is greedy and stupid. Especially if you are using like mercenary jacket or double mercenary jacket. So you are tank, you have Martlock cape, people will just ignore you. And if it's gonna be two gankers, they're gonna kite you. In 4.0 items, they're gonna kite you out and gonna make kill on you. Do not count on high AP, because we're talking about open world. If you're gonna be in high AP, first gank squad, they're gonna see you, gonna follow you for 5 maps in a row. And you're gonna die and lose your 6.3 curse skull. And they're gonna earn a few millions. So yeah, in open world, no. Barely this one in C tier, and this one only with specs. About, like here, Accord, but how to level up if they are bad, like. So what, I need to suicide and play with useless PvE setup without participating in PvP? Yes, or you can level up any PvE build in open world, get 100 specs, and once you're gonna farm mobs, you're gonna earn combat thing credits that you can put in any other weapon you want. Let's say you was playing on nature stuff, you was doing PvE, chilling in super cheap setup, earned insane amount of silver, insane amount of combat thing credits, and then you want to have fun and gank people on spots, curse, let's say, in Mists or in open world. You win with one click level up the specs, and that's all, and having fun. So this is my tier list for open world, guys. Again, what I recommend you to use mostly as A tier and the first part of a B tier, well, again, as AB. C tier, do not. Again, there are some bots. If you want to know my opinion about specific weapon, in what scenarios it can be good, in what scenarios it can be bad, watch this video. But for now, it is over. I hope it will help new players to figure out what weapons are good and what weapons are bad, how to survive in open world, because we mentioned this at the beginning of this tier list. And again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to press like button, and don't forget to join our small community in Discord. And yep, for today, I guess it's over. Again, love you all. Thank you again for your activity in chat. even though I was not talking much, second part of the stream was explaining you things. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for joining our community in Discord. And we're gonna see each other tomorrow.